In 2050, a game called Immortals was created, which at first glance seemed like an ordinary RPG to people, until one player discovered that game attributes could be transferred from the game to real life. The goal of the game is to ascend to God, to pass many tests, in order to finally challenge the gods and rise above the entire virtual world. The protagonist, Jiang Chen, reached the summit and challenged the deity, but received several serious injuries in the fight. The creature that Jiang challenged began to lose, calling the guy crazy and saying that everything that happens in this world is not just a game. Jiang replies that he has his own reasons for going all the way, and he does not regret what he did. After which the god turns into a clot of energy that explodes and smashes the hero's weapon into pieces. One of the fragments hits Jiang directly in the forehead, which, given the speed and force of the explosion, promises instant death. However, the main character does not die, but is reborn into our world, into his real body. Before he can recover from the mild shock, the protagonist is frightened by a gentle knock on the door of his room. A pretty girl with pink hair and home clothes enters. It's Jiang's neighbor, Xiaoruyer. The thing that Xia brought to the protagonist's room is extremely important. Without it, Jiang would not have been able to return to the world of immortals. The main character takes a virtual reality helmet out of the box, in the reflection of which he sees his face. This thing will return him to the god's server and give him a second chance to conquer the game world. Finding himself among the ancient architecture, Jiang looked around, after which the process of selecting a skill began. Last time the guy had a rare ability, and he was interested in what he would get now. A short loading time and the hero gets his new power. An ability called Yin and Yang Inversion, which allows you to change the effects of skills to the opposite. The ability is extremely specific, but with the right approach it can be really dangerous. Since any damage with such an ability will heal enemies, then you need to act differently, so Jiang chooses the only class that can heal, the priest. Instead of everyday clothes, the main character is given a snow-white cloak and a magic staff. This is his second attempt to challenge the gods. Jiang was teleported to the newbie village, where he will begin his new adventure. There are a lot of people around who have just entered the game and have not yet figured out the mechanics, but the main character is not one of them. Depending on the chosen class, the player is given the appropriate characteristics and initial skill. For the priest, this is a healing skill that restores 20 units of health and 100% of magical power, and also recovers in 5 seconds and spends 5 mana points. The tooltip says that using the talent will increase the skill power by 50%, which, coupled with the mana restoration attribute that is given from the start, makes the priest a real warrior. The protagonist uses his yin and yang talent directly on the menu in the hopes that it will work and get a combat skill. And he succeeds. The skill icon is now in the negative, and the description says that the modified ability deals 30 units of damage. The new talent is many times stronger than what Jiang had in his previous life, which means he will now reach the level of gods much faster. The protagonist came to the east side pasture to get the horns of the red-horned sheep, the very first enemy of all players. These horns can be exchanged with the NPC for a certain buff. The hero dealt the first 2 blows. Visual healing effects appeared, but the damage of 60 units still happened. The beast immediately went on the attack, but Jiang easily dodged and prepared to deliver the finishing blow. Just as accurately as last time, the main character hits the sheep and kills it. From the rather large size of the animal, only 1 red horn remains, which is what the guy needs. 2 spells are enough to kill 1 sheep and get 1 horn from it. It will take Jiang about 2 hours to collect enough resources. 2 hours later, the main character had killed 800 sheep and received 705 horns. Compared to the 200 received last time, the result is amazing. The ruined temple, one of the stops on the journey to the top of the world, is where Jiang went. The passage to the next level is a very popular place. There are a lot of newbies standing near it, looking for people to join their squads, and the main character receives many offers to join groups, mostly from girls. The guy simply ignores most of the adventurers, and tells one that he prefers guys, after which he leaves, leaving the girl in slight shock. After passing a crowd of adventurers, Jiang goes into the temple and finds the NPC he came here for. An old man sitting on cold marble, dressed in a plain robe, who says that the temple is destroyed, so you can only communicate with the gods with the help of red horns. The more of them there are, the stronger the blessing will be. The hero hands the old man his bag of horns, and the surprised old man asks where the boy was able to get so many horns. However, the NPC does not intend to suspect the player of anything, but only adds that, apparently, the gods have their eye on Jiang. The old man begins to recite a prayer in an inhuman language. His hands begin to emit a scarlet glow, and Jiang stands motionless nearby, waiting in anticipation of the blessing. A silhouette of a naked angel appears from the statue behind the monk. She asks the protagonist to believe in love, after which Jiang receives Cupid's blessing. The protagonist enters the talent menu and is amazed by Cupid's dedication to his work. The buffs, namely, increased skill recharge speed, decreased mana consumption, and +1 unit to dropped items, work only when teaming up with the opposite sex, and the blessing is also enhanced if its owner teams up with 3 members of the opposite sex at once. Realizing that after his statement before entering the temple, Jiang will have a hard time finding a female companion, the boy bows to the old man and asks him to turn to the gods and ask for another blessing. The refusal in the form of a cane flying into his head was extremely clear, and Jiang hurried out of the temple. If the hero knew that he would receive such a buff, he would not refuse any girl, but now it is no longer a fact that he will be able to find even one. At this moment, the same girl he told Jiang that he preferred guys passes by. She has already found new members of her squad, 3 adult men who praise her appearance and look at her very strangely. It is clear from the adventurer's face that she does not like this kind of company, but it will be very difficult to move forward alone. So, apparently, she will have to put up with it. But suddenly she receives an offer to join the team, which is immediately rejected by the system. The girl turns around and sees that same handsome priest from the temple, and understands that she will be much more comfortable traveling with him than with these 3. After apologizing and saying that her friend came, she quickly leaves the team and walks towards Jiang. Meanwhile, the main character, having seen the message about the refusal, moved towards the exit of the village, when suddenly he is stopped by that same girl, and along with her comes a request to accept her into the team. The girl's name is Qing Ying. Slightly surprised that a couple of seconds ago Qing was on another team, and now she herself asked to be accepted into hers, Jiang still accepted her, which the girl was incredibly happy about. Qing's previous group is unhappy that she abandoned them and went off with some pretty priest. They clearly want revenge. The heroes come to the pasture, but do not stop, but go further. Qing asks why they did not look for the red-horned sheep, to which the main character replies that there is no point in wasting money on them. It's getting dark. The sun is setting behind the horizon and is being replaced by the moon, and with it comes the one for whom Jiang and his partner came here. A gnoll, a level 5 monster. Qing gets scared and asks if the protagonist is sure that they can defeat a monster that is several levels higher than them, to which the guy replies that the girl does not need to do anything at all, because he can handle him on his own. Having noticed the heroes, the gnoll immediately ran to attack and caught the first blow from Jiang, to which he did not even react in any way. During the 2-hour hunt for sheep, the main character was able to level up quite a bit, and now deals 4 times more damage. The fight follows the same scenario as the first battle with the red-horned sheep. Apparently all low-level enemies have similar intelligence. Having dodged the attack, Jiang delivers a second blow. This time the monster can no longer ignore it and barely stays on its feet. Qing stands in complete shock that a low-level priest can deal damage, and such a large amount at that. Usually, 5th-level battle mages deal 30 to 40 units of damage with a fireball. But now she sees a priest who shouldn't hit harder than 100, dealing many times more. All this looks very much like cheating, although the game was created by the famous company Creator and other world leaders in the field of video game creation, so it is simply impossible to hack it. Watching the fight, in which Jiang never takes any damage, Qing comes to a simple conclusion. Her new ally is simply too strong. The girl clearly understood that she needed to gain the mortal's trust and be close to him. Then the passage further would be guaranteed. Suddenly, while Qing was imagining in detail how exactly she would get Jiang's attention, another gnoll snuck up on her from behind. Fortunately, the girl had enough reaction time to hide from the monster's stinging blow behind her shield. Having blocked one attack, Qing exhaled and opened herself up, which the gnoll took advantage of, delivering several lightning-fast blows that she was no longer able to defend against. The main character hides his partner behind his back and asks her to move away and not interfere. The girl asks if Jiang is really going to fight 2 high-level monsters at the same time. He asks a counter-question. Does Qing want him to leave her alone with these gnolls? And the girl immediately steps back. After 15 minutes, the hero finishes off the last attacking monster and increases his level to 6th. Suddenly, the staff flies out of Jiang's hands and changes its shape, becoming larger, more detailed, and emitting greater energy. The protagonist picks up his new weapon and reads the information about it. It is a bronze-level staff of rotting wood, which adds 20 units to spell power and 5 units to intelligence. Meanwhile, Qing, who had hardly participated in the battle, had reached a new level, the 4th, which made her very happy, and she hurried to share it with Jiang. The guy decided to check how his intimacy with Qing Ying was progressing, and seeing the number 57 out of 10,000, the hero realized that each killed monster gave 1 intimacy point. While Zhang was counting how much more time it would take to reach 10,000 intimacy points, a powerful roar was heard from behind the heroes. A monster appeared on the sharp rock, but this time it was much stronger. A mutated Null, a level 5 boss with a dangerous ability. When losing 10% of health, it makes a bite that deals 500% damage. Although Zhang was surprised, he was not afraid, but on the contrary, he was glad that the boss appeared. This would be the first significant kill on this journey. But this time, everything will not be so simple. With his speed, Jiang will not be able to dodge, and damage 5 times greater will be fatal for him, so he needs to approach the matter with his head. The hero comes up with a plan, but Qing will also be involved in it, which makes her very happy. The girl stood in a stance and tensed up a little. Finally she could be useful, and the task wasn't too difficult, to raise the shield on command. But still, this moment was exciting for her. Standing behind his partner, Jiang begins to act. First he deals 4 blows, each of which takes away 180 health points from the monster. The next blow, the 5th in a row, the Null had already begun to approach the adventurers. 6th attack, the boss has less than 90% health left, which means he will now use his ability. The Null roared again. The eyes stopped being completely red and changed color to black, leaving only the pupils scarlet. The boss is preparing to bite. The heroes crouched and Zhang commanded Qing to raise his shield to repel the attack. Qing raised her steel shield above her head and prepared to take the beast's blow. The Null's bite lasted only a second. The girl barely managed to keep from falling, but the shield withstood the attack. The main character jumped out from behind his partner and continued to attack. This tactic really works. Zhang's level allows him to hit 6 times in a row, so their strategy is to quickly attack and then block the special attack. The protagonist goes behind Qing again and she blocks the bite again. If the enemy were smarter, this tactic would not work. But now the heroes are fighting an animal, so by repeating the same actions over and over again, they almost win. The last spell, and the boss is defeated, and the adventurers remain completely unharmed. The protagonist increases his level to 7. Qing reaches level 5 and brags about it to Zhang, but he is not interested in this, because the loot from the boss is important to him now. The protagonist received a robe of flowing clouds, a razor dagger that can be sold, and a sealed book of magicians that he cannot use yet, but it may be useful in the future. The fight is over. The protagonist heads to the newbie village to sell the dagger he just received, and says that Qing may not return with it, but she insists. On the way to the village, the heroes meet Qing's previous team, which she left as soon as she saw Jiang. The adventurers, embittered by the girl, decide to take revenge for such betrayal, and teach a lesson to the frail priest who took their ally away from them. One of the men shot at Jiang from behind, but he dodged it without any problem. The squad blocks the path of the main character and his partner. The archer says that Qing's actions are unacceptable. Their squad is not a walk-through yard to enter and exit so easily. The magician adds that these two must be punished, after which he uses a fireball that flies in a twisting trajectory towards Jiang. Qing blocks the spell with his shield and whispers to the protagonist that these 3 are not so simple, but the guy is not scared at all. Jiang uses his spell on the archer and he cowers from the damage he takes. The magician, seeing that the priest killed his ally with 1 blow, called Jiang a cheater. But the hero does not care about the words of the one who is about to die and give him his things. The spellcaster also fell from 1 spell. The swordsman standing nearby understands that his turn is coming, and he won't be able to escape, because in order to survive at least 1 blow, he needs another 35 units of health. The warrior immediately cooled his ardor and tried to talk to Jiang, but he didn't want to listen to him. Like his teammates, the swordsman died from 1 blow. In this game, after death, the player loses 1 unit of all his attributes, and as a reward, the winner of the battle gets the loser's highest quality item. The heroes reached the village of newcomers, and having gone deeper, they parted ways. Qing went to hand in a quest to kill monsters, and Jiang needed to sell the weapons he had received. Having moved away, the main character began to think about how to quickly increase the closeness. Otherwise, Cupid's blessing would stop working at a distance. The artifacts of those 3 adventurers are suitable for a quick sale, and the blade would be more profitable to sell at auction. Having sold each weapon for 2 gold and 97 silver, the protagonist collected a considerable sum, which would definitely be enough to open the spellbook. Jiang headed to the village mansion, to the room of the junior priest teacher. It was here that they would help him open the mysterious book. At the door, the hero is met by 2 fit twin men who kindly ask why Jiang has come to see them. Closing his eyes, The hero hands the book to one of the mentors, who immediately begins to stroke it and praise it. Still with his eyes closed, Jiang hands over a bag of gold coins as payment. The man, with a very satisfied expression on his face, directs magical energy into his hands and opens the book. The mentor then hands the spell book to the protagonist. It turns out to be a group healing spell, which with Jiang's talent can become a powerful mass attack. The main character thanked her for her help and left. He went out to the main square in search of Qing, in order to go on hunting monsters. But while he was looking for his partner with his eyes, Jiang heard someone talking in raised tones. A certain adventurer was scolding her subordinate named Tao Xiaotan for trying to outrank her. Jiang would have ignored this situation if he hadn't known the name of this girl. He recognized her as the only summoner on the entire server, and didn't even believe that they could bully her like that. With the urge to help both her and himself, the protagonist intervenes in the dialogue of these girls, and invites Tao to join his team. The girl asks in surprise if the guy really wants to form a team with her, to which he replies with a friendly smile. Of course. Timidly asking if she can leave the village, Tao receives a passive-aggressive response from a girl standing nearby, who says that Tao can do whatever she wants. Although the girl allowed him to do whatever he wanted, she clearly had no intention of letting Tao go, but Jiang was persistent and said that he would not be afraid of any trouble. Then the sorceress completely lost her temper, ordered Tao to step back and began to threaten the main character. Then Jiang decided not to create scandals and quarrels, but only to show his capabilities and intentions. He used a spell that flew a couple of centimeters from the girl's face and hit a rabbit standing nearby. The damage figure of 225 units greatly surprised the magician. The mage was afraid to continue a constructive dialogue, and Jiang and Tao left to look for the third member of their team. Qing doesn't understand why the captain decided to take a second-level player into the group, but he still doesn't mind. The Mortals squad, replenished with a new member, went to the Dark Mist Canyon, where monsters from the 6th to the 10th level live. The strategy is the same as when fighting the gnolls. Jiang fights and the others stand back and don't cause any trouble. It's a good time for Qing and Tao to get to know each other better. The enemies have become stronger, but the main character does not have any problems. His level grows faster than the levels of monsters, and the new spell, as expected, is very effective against a large crowd of enemies. Meanwhile, Tao does as Jiang told her, stands at a distance and admires the captain's skill. The girl asks Qing if she is in a relationship with Jiang and why he is so strong, being a priest. The knight shyly replies that she met the captain not long ago. This question clearly flattered her. Suddenly, Qing receives a notification from the system, for which it was even worth tearing Jiang away from the battle. The leaderboard has opened, and the main character is on it. Without revealing himself to his enemies, Jiang opens the menu to see where he ranks on the leaderboard and who is ahead of him. The main character opens the leaderboard and finds himself in last place, 10th, which doesn't exactly make him happy. Tao and Qing are more upset than Jiang. They feel like they are the ones holding back the captain's progress, but the guy convinces them otherwise and adds that nothing is stopping him from rising to first place in the future. Suddenly, the summoner notices something in the distance and asks her allies to turn around and look. It turns out to be a dream fairy sitting on a rock, an entry-level pet that the player can tame. This gift of fate made Jiang much happier than the leaderboard, because finding such a pet is much more difficult than even a boss. The hero could not rejoice at his success for long, for he heard heavy, slow steps and the clanking of steel armor behind him. The girl who tyrannized Tao in the village square came to take revenge and get her subordinate back, and she called a squad of mercenaries to help her. Seeing the silhouette of this sorceress, Tao was very scared, which cannot be said about Qing standing next to her, who was confident in the strength of their captain. The summoner said that she didn't want to cause trouble for Jiang, and that he could kick her out of the team. But he responded without a trace of emotion that he only saw 4 curious players in front of him who wanted to give him their weapons. Having learned that this priest is among the top 10 strongest players on the server, the mercenaries became slightly tense, and besides, he is not alone here, but with some knight. Jiang arrogantly asks if their gang has changed their minds about attacking, since they will not have another chance. These words provoke the woman even more. She is confident of her victory and declares that she will teach the guy to be a real man. The girl doubles the reward, and the fighting spirit of the 3 instantly rises. They take up fighting stances and prepare to attack. Before the attack, the paladin decides to start a one-sided verbal altercation and simply shouts that the priest, warrior, and little girl will not be able to defeat them, while the sorceress behind him is perplexed by his actions and charges a fireball. However, the attack turns out to be completely useless. The shield, which withstood the attack of the mutated gnoll, easily reflects an ordinary fire spell. Apparently the fireball was their trump card, since the four of them couldn't show anything other than it, and fell to one of Jiang's spells. Tayo is shocked. Those whom she considered truly dangerous died at once from one attack by the captain. The heroes return to the Fairy of Dreams. Jiang is determined to tame this pet. And to do this there are two ways. Use special props, which, unfortunately, none of the squad has, or rely on your own strength, complete the task, and win. The first option is physically impossible, so the main character decides to attack the fairy. But before that he warned his allies that if any threat appears on the horizon, they will have to leave the team and go far away. Jiang suddenly finds himself in an unknown place with a strange halberd in his right hand. This is the test. There are a bunch of fairies flying around the hero. All but one are illusions that are unable to fly beyond a certain area, and in order to tame a pet, you need to attack a real fairy with a spear, which flies without any restrictions until the health points run out. The main character raised his head up and began to closely watch the flight of each fairy, and after a short search, he found that very real fairy. She flew practically from the ground to the sky and looked straight into his eyes. Jiang threw the spear at the fairy with all his might, after which there was nothing left before his eyes except darkness, which was quickly replaced by a message from the system about the successful taming of the pet. The hero was unconscious all this time, and his allies were very happy when the captain finally came to his senses. The hero explained the situation, told about the test he had passed, after which a Fairy of Dreams appeared on his shoulder. The fairy united with Jiang and granted him a new ability, to instantly move to any point within a radius of 5 meters with a frequency of 5 minutes, which, due to Cupid's blessing, was reduced to 2.5 minutes. The girls were stunned by the captain's appearance, so they couldn't even respond to his offer to continue killing the undead, and Jiang began to fight on his own. 10 minutes later, the main character got a valuable item, a good bow, which the guy doesn't need, but it can be easily sold for 40 gold. Suddenly, a local boss appeared on the battlefield, a huge mutated zombie of the 9th level, possessing 2 types of attacks. As Tao said, the first attack, which eats away at the slime, won't be much of a problem. But the second one, the flying hook that the zombie uses when it loses 10% of its health, can be a problem. The summoner read about this monster. Its second attack is extremely dangerous and fast, so Qing is unlikely to be able to block it with his shield. So Jiang replies that he will do it himself. Qing and Tao worriedly ask what their plan is, to which the protagonist replies that he will do everything himself, and they just need to hide. Jumping onto a ledge in the rock, Jiang starts screaming and attracts the boss's attention. The zombie goes into a frontal attack while the protagonist deals damage to it with his spells. After losing a couple % of his health, the boss releases his first attack, a corrosive slime that flies quickly and accurately at Jiang. It's not hard to dodge this shot, but its speed is clearly superior to the previous boss's attack speed. Tayo is very worried. As she said, you can dodge the slime, but it will be much more difficult to dodge the hook. The main character continues to hit the boss with his magic, and the zombie has 90% of his health left, which means he will now use his hook. The weapon didn't even have to be thrown. The monster charged it with mana, and it flew towards Jiang at such a speed that the hero wouldn't have time to jump back, let alone even move. Before the hook and Jiang's head collide, a glowing crescent moon appears on his forehead, and the space around it fills with mana, causing the guy's hair to stand on end. In the blink of an eye, Jiang disappears and the hook hits an empty rock, bouncing up a meter. The main character finds himself behind the monster and is already charging his spell. His new ability as a dream fairy helped him escape the attack. But this power has its drawbacks. The 5-minute cooldown is quite long, so the hero must always monitor the boss's health and not finish off 10% of the points until the ability is restored. After 25 minutes of very careful combat, the zombie is finally defeated. The protagonist reaches level 9 and receives another attribute point. Additionally, the boss dropped a frost staff, phantom boots, blood greatsword, and a moon dress blueprint, all of which can be easily sold except for the blueprint. To sew costumes, especially rare ones, you need to reach level 10, and only one player on the server has reached it, so no one will buy it. Looking at the time, the main character saw that it was already 2 o'clock in the morning in the real world, and it was time for him to go to bed. Fortunately, his team would be online tomorrow, and they would be able to continue their journey. Returning to reality, the hero took off his helmet, put it on the table, and jumped onto the bed to continue developing in good spirits. In the morning, when the sun's rays were just beginning to penetrate into Jiang's room, Xia knocked on the door, and without waiting for permission to enter, opened it, and the guy entered. The girl brought Jiang breakfast, and at the same time decided to ask how his leveling up in the game was going. When Xia learned that Jiang was developing in another village far away from hers, she was very upset because she had hoped that he could help her develop. She started playing because she learned that you can make good money in Immortals, which is true. 1 gold can be exchanged for 75 Huaxia coins, real currency. Jiang remembers that Xia is studying to be a fashion designer and tells her about the mechanics of a tailor, and that you can make a lot of money by creating suits, but you need at least level 10 to do so. Unfortunately, the girl is still on level 3, but the main character promises to write a game strategy in his free time. Xia, satisfied with her prospects, leaves and Jiang, left alone, picks up his helmet and prepares to return to his squad. Confidently putting on the headset, the main character sets himself a goal for today, to reach level 10 and become the second one to do so on the server. Jiang connects to the server and immediately receives a message from Tao. She has been online for a long time and is already waiting for the captain at the entrance to the village. But before setting off on an adventure, the protagonist decides to go to the trading shop to check his balance and put gold-level items up for sale. During the night, all the weapons that he had put out before leaving the game had already been sold out, and the money for them would soon be credited to Jiang's account. Now he has 1,125 gold coins, which at the new rate is more than 100,000 Huaxia coins. The hero leaves a gold-level weapon in the chamber and goes to his squad, which has already been waiting for him. Jiang asks why Qing is so sleepy, to which she replies that she was glued to the updated game forum all night. Hearing this, Tao states that she is also on this site, and read last night that players who reach level 10 end up in a secret realm and cannot return to the main city. The girl asks what this secret kingdom is and why one cannot return from there. The summoner answers with interest that the secret kingdom is a copy of the main city, from which there is only one gate, and to open it, you need to pass a test. Jiang has already passed this stage and is not worried about it. The only thing he hopes is that this time the gate will appear earlier, because during the last pass, he had to wait until 1 in the morning. The protagonist decides not to continue the conversation on this topic, but suggests going hunting as soon as possible, because they have a lot to do today. The team return to the Dark Mist Canyon, and their mission now is to raise all 3 members of the squad to level 10, so that they can all enter the secret kingdom together. A few minutes later, Qing and Tao, their clothes torn, are running away from a crowd of zombies chasing them. This is Jiang's cunning plan to quickly raise his level. The idea of the main character is this. The girls fight zombies and attract their attention, and when there are so many enemies that they can no longer cope on their own, Tao and Qing run to the captain so that he can hit the dense horde of monsters with his mass attack. The entire zombie crowd dies, Jiang's level rises to 10th, and along with it, the yin and yang ability seeps in. The skill's effectiveness has increased by what %? The protagonist asks how his allies are progressing. They are both only at level 9. After a short hunt, the heroes head to the gates of a mysterious kingdom. There are many mages, warriors, and priests standing near the gates, but none of them are competitors to the mortal squad. In this crowd, all the players are at most level 6 or 7. Everyone is ready, which means a new stage of our hero's adventure begins. Among the crowd of onlookers who came to look at the gate are the same mercenaries who dared to attack Jiang. They are surprised that the priest reached the 10th level so quickly. These 3 speculate that if the priest is unable to deal damage, then Jiang must be relying on some other ability. It turns out that the main character has already become famous due to the fact that, being a priest, without a guild, he developed so quickly. Jiang is so popular that there are even rumors about him, one of which even says that the guy is developing solely due to the female knight from his squad, Qing. The mortal squad enters the dungeon and are immediately greeted by a marble arch and a system notification warning them that they are entering a secret realm. But first they need to pass a test, and to start it, the heroes need to stand on 4 stone circles. There are 4 circles, and there are only 3 people in the squad. This would be a problem if there were no summoner in the group, Tao, whom the main character asks to summon some animal to activate the plate. The girl calls upon her dog, Dahong, who jumps from the portal straight into the stone circle. When all 4 stone circles were activated, hordes of skeletons began to emerge from the marble arch. The skeletons are dressed in ragged but not cheap clothes, and, in addition, each of the monsters corresponds to one of the classes that are available to players when creating a character. The protagonist states that the attributes of each of these skeletons are similar to those of a level 10 player. But Jiang is not afraid of this. He came here for the sake of strong opponents, so he immediately goes on the attack. The skeletons had not yet emerged from the portal when a barrage of spells fell upon them. Qing and Tao, as usual, stand to the side and marvel at how strong their captain is. While Jiang was dealing with a crowd of enemies, he received a notification from the system that he couldn't ignore. 3 offers had been received to buy his bloody sword. The main character comes up with a plan. The auction will automatically end when he leaves the dungeon. So, all he needs to do is not complete the quest until the players offer a price that suits Jiang. The main character makes blow after blow, killing one monster after another, simultaneously pumping up his level. One skeleton dropped a bronze-tier bow. After opening the secret kingdom, entry-level weapons will be devalued, but items of bronze tier and above will not be affected. Tao, standing behind the captain, counted all the things he had collected, and their number was astounding. On average, one bronze weapon costs 50 gold, and according to the girl's calculations, Jiang had already earned more than 100,000. Jiang is developing very quickly, which cannot be said about Qing and Tao. If this continues, it is possible that the guy will simply leave his teammates behind. When the main character dealt with the regular skeletons, they were replaced by stronger enemies, ancient guardians, who, upon receiving fatal damage, activate an invisible, invulnerable state and increase the speed of their attacks by 20%. Invulnerability and invisibility disappear only after the attack. Tao read about these monsters. They are very dangerous. Every second player dies in this dungeon at their hands. This time, Tao's fears are well-founded. Jiang also admits that they are a big threat. The main character begins to attack them, while simultaneously coming up with a plan for further action. So far, everything is going smoothly. But when the skeleton's health starts to approach 0, they will enter invulnerability and invisibility mode. The only thing Jiang can do in this situation is to bring the monsters to a half-dead state, then provoke them to attack, dodge it, and finish off the skeletons. Just then, the moment comes when the guards run out of health points, and they all go on the offensive. The girls were seriously scared. The damage of the ancient guards is much greater than the health of the main character, which means that one of their combined attacks will be enough to kill him. Jiang strikes again. The skeletons become invisible. But, logically, since they are not the smartest creatures, they will not come up with complex and insidious tactics, and, therefore, even being invisible, they continue to attack head-on. Their attack was not difficult to predict. They all moved in a jump and eventually struck at one point. Fortunately, the main character managed to use Blink and teleported out of the affected area. After the blow, invisibility and invulnerability disappeared, and the guards were left completely defenseless. From the skeletons, he dropped a bone sword made of white jade, a silver-level weapon that would easily sell for a tidy sum at auction. As soon as the hero put the received artifact into his inventory, the ground around him began to shake abnormally. The earthquake foreshadowed the appearance of a new enemy, the boss of this dungeon, who, immediately after the earthquake, showed his hand. The new boss, whose size is incomparable to the previous ones, is called Ancient Death Skeleton, and has 2 abilities: Mana Burn, which attacks the farthest target and burns 10% of their mana for 10 seconds, and Soul Confusion, which, after reducing health by 10%, attacks the enemy with the highest damage and deprives them of the ability to attack for 10 seconds. The skeleton looms over the heroes. A serious battle is ahead, in which the entire squad will have to fight. It would be easier to fight alone, but the boss's abilities do not allow this. We will have to work together. Zhang encourages his allies, saying that this boss is not difficult to defeat, and when he starts the attack, they will have to continue it. It didn't work to raise morale. Tao, who spends hours on the game for him, knows that this is the strongest boss on the server at the moment. The protagonist's plan is to have every mana burn directed to Tao and Qing, and to take on the confusion of the soul. The Ancient Death Skeleton is the first boss to have any intelligence. He talks and even intimidates the heroes. The girls are ready for battle. Tao is scared. She feels tension and strong pressure through the virtual reality helmet. The skeleton went on the attack with a phrase that the players would pay for invading his land. The energy sphere flies towards Zhang at high speed, but he deftly dodges it, and without losing his balance, counterattacks. After Jiang, Tao, and Qing strike, but their damage is negligible compared to the ancient skeleton's health points. The heroes return to the same positions. The girls were not supposed to cause any serious damage, since they only need to distract the mana burn. And that's exactly what happens. This attack bypasses the main character and hits Tao. Her mana quickly disappears, but she doesn't take much damage. Meanwhile, Jiang has a new mission: to finish off the boss's 90% health points and avoid the soul confusion. The protagonist delivers the last 3 blows, after which the skeleton charges his main spell. The guy ends up right in front of the boss, and, as if, does not try to dodge. The confusion of the soul flies, and Jiang stands in place as he stood, until the sphere reaches almost his head. At this moment, the hero seems to split in 2. We see Jiang's stricken body fall onto the cold, rocky ground. his eyes glowing a bright scarlet color. Ching is in shock. Could they really hit the captain? How could this happen, and what should they do next? Suddenly, Jiang appears unharmed a few meters away from his dead body. This is the ability of the Phantom Boots to create copies of themselves right before a fatal attack. The main character received a notification that his gold-level bloody greatsword was wanted for 30,000 gold. The auction would end automatically in 20 minutes, meaning that if Jiang did not rush with the quest, the guilds would be able to offer an even higher price. The auction continues, and the closer it gets to its end, the more crazy amounts the guilds are offering for it. There are 2 minutes and 32 seconds left until the end, and the price has already skyrocketed to 35,000 gold. Every guild is currently experiencing a crisis. The first in line are the kings of the world. Their squads do not have time to get enough money from the bosses. The president of this guild, Ba Ti Quanjin, is simply furious, because possession of this weapon will provide any guild with a quantum leap in development and strength. Quanjin's deputy tries to calm him down, because his hysterics will lead to nothing. Besides, while he stands there screaming into the air, the price for the sword has already risen to 40,000. At this time, in the Heavenly Vault Guild, the leader of Tai Dao Zhan also cannot afford to relax. His deputy says that the price has risen right before his eyes from 40,000 to 55,000. It looks more like a bubble that is about to burst. But Tai needs this sword. Thanks to it, he will be able to pass through the secret kingdom and become the first to do so the guild must obtain this artifact at any cost. There was less than a minute left until the end of the trades, and the assistant monitoring them started to lag due to so many notifications. In a minute, the price rose to 60,000. Luckily for Tai, the last bet belonged to his guild. Now the great bloody sword is his, and he will be the first to pass through the secret realm. The guy's happiness did not last long. Following the announcement of the purchase of the sword, both Tai and his assistant received news of the passage of the secret kingdom by the Mortals Detachment. Tai is incredibly furious. He orders his deputy to immediately check this information and find out who these three are. The system, as expected, did not lie. The ancient death skeleton really did fall. Unfortunately, we were not shown the battle. Zhang raised his level to 11, and also received the title of guide for completing the secret realm first on the server, doubling the chance of receiving treasures. Qing and Tao never ceased to be amazed, like children, at the strength of their captain. The skeleton dropped 4 silver-level artifacts, the magic crystal ball, which allows you to double the effect of a spell with a small chance, and also accumulates growth points, thanks to which you can subsequently increase your level, the necklace of life force, which heals 2% per second, the ring of fury, which adds 20 to attack, and 5% to the chance of critical damage, and also a book that Zhang got very lucky with. Usually this boss drops 1-star and 2-star spells, but the main character got a book with 3 stars. This luck is not accidental. It is the effect of Cupid's blessing. That is, Qing and Tao made their contribution, so the guy wants to thank them with 2 bronze-level items. But that's not all. The main character also plans to buy a full set for his teammates with the money earned from selling the items he just knocked out. The squad left the dungeon and immediately gathered dozens of glances around them. A bunch of players wanted to see the favorite of this server in person, but they didn't consider Zhang to be the favorite, but Qing. Even though the main character was in the ranking of the most pumped-up players, everyone thought that he was only on the team to help the strongest knight on the server. The girl definitely didn't expect to be surrounded by such attention. There was even a line of people waiting for photos next to her. But Zhang was more than happy with this turn of events. He didn't need any extra attention, and since Qing took on the role of the strongest, he could calmly develop and earn money without prying eyes. Qing escaped from her new admirers with great difficulty, and the heroes returned to the village of newcomers. The squad is in the lobby of the village mansion. They are standing in front of the main portal that connects all the main cities. The protagonist asks one last time if his allies are ready, and, having received a positive answer, teleports his team to Juilu. Qing and Tao are in culture shock. Juilu is one of the 32 second-tier cities. Everything here is much larger and more realistic than in the newcomer village. Zhang says that when the girls level up, they will be able to travel between cities on their own, either by teleport or on foot. In the main mansion of the city, where the mortal squad came, the protagonist instructed Qing and Tao to look for hidden missions, and he himself went about his business. By business, Zhang meant visiting the NPC financial secretary to rent a trading post. Apparently, no one had come to the server since its opening, so the secretary took on this task with particular enthusiasm. The man pulled out a map of the mansion with prices for the points indicated. The shops in the main hall opposite the entrance cost 1,000 gold, and those on the sides cost 500. The trading house imposes a limit on the sale of items, and also takes a percentage. Plus to everything else, neighbor Shi will also need a place in the future where she can easily sell the created items. All these factors make the purchase of tents a profitable investment. Zhang points to the $1,000 plots, says he wants to rent 6, and asks if there will be any discount for an annual lease. Amazed by such sums, the secretary offers a price of 10,000 gold for the tent for a year, to which the protagonist, naturally, agrees. Having recently received exactly the right amount for a large bloody sword, Zhang easily parts with the money and leaves, while the NPC literally bathes in gold. Now Zhang faces another task: to find a mentor in this mansion in order to open the recently received book. It didn't take long to find him. The mentor was a couple of doors away from the financial secretary, and it turned out to be a gorgeous girl in revealing clothing, Evelyn. Entering the office, the main character immediately assessed the instructor's appearance, and became embarrassed. The guy took out a book and, trying not to lower his eyes to Evelyn, handed it to her. The mentor was amazed. A 3-star book at the moment, while guilds are just beginning to gain strength, is a great rarity. While examining and feeling this book, the girl approached Zhang's face and said that for the service he would have to pay 50 gold. With even greater embarrassment, the hero said that it was not a problem and gave the instructor the money. With just one touch, Evelyn unsealed the book, and the spell within promised great power. Apocalypse of the Lesser Light, which releases a hexagon-shaped spell within which all friendly creatures recover 100% of their strength per second for 10 seconds. The main character used his talent on the spell and received a truly powerful weapon. A mass attack that takes away 200% of the power per second from enemies within a radius of 20 meters. Leaving the mansion and going outside, Zhang decides to immediately try out his new ability. It can be said that while the spell is activated, within the confines of this hexagon, he is simply invincible. Zhang's personal affairs are finished, which means he needs to return to Tao and Qing. The hero hopes that the girls manage to find some kind of quest. As soon as the main character thought about his teammates, Qing herself contacted him. The girl wrote that she found the quest Endless Challenge and asked whether to accept it. Such tasks are very rare and come in 3 types: experience type, equipment type, and weapon type, for completing which you get a lot of experience, good equipment, and weapons, respectively. The NPC told the girl that the quest was very difficult, but the main character had already completed something similar, so he confidently said that their squad would take it. Meanwhile, in Mingyu City, Tai Daojian is serious about taking revenge on the one who took away his chance to become the first to conquer the secret kingdom. The assistant runs to Tai and says that the mortal squad was discovered in the city of Juilu. But there is one big problem. These 3 are not so simple. The female knight was dubbed the strongest woman on the server, and the priest from this squad is generally among the 10 most pumped-up players by level. These 2 facts did not bother the president at all. He ordered to gather 300 warriors in Juilu and kill them at any cost. The deputy adds that fast travel between cities costs 5 gold per person, which, given a detachment of 300 heads, will be a considerable sum. This also does not give rise to doubts in Tai. He sees in this not only revenge for a personal insult, but also a way to show other guilds his strength and influence. While the Firmament Guild was thinking over a plan of attack, the protagonist's squad accepted the Infinite Challenge quest, which consisted of clearing the crack into the monster realm. The heroes gathered in the mansion. Qing accepted the task, but she was worried that when accepting the quest, nothing was written about the reward. Zhang immediately reassured the squad. The reward for completing this mission would be a guaranteed drop of rare items and double experience. The mortal squad came to the Forest of Nightmares and found a rift to the realm of demons. When the heroes started to enter, they received a notification from the system. There is no way back. If they escape, all rewards are cancelled, experience is deducted, and the quest itself will disappear. The first enemy immediately appears. A 10th level demon capable of regenerating life energy by 5% every second. Wuqing has a key role this time. She must distract enemies and block their attacks. The heroes have been going through several battles together, but Tao still hasn't found a use for herself, and this makes her very sad. Fortunately, the main character was able to raise her spirits. He said that after the 20th level, the summoner's potential would grow many times faster. There is no time for talking at all. New demons appear one after another. The girl is already barely holding back the onslaught of monsters. A little more, and she will not be able to hold the defense any longer. Fortunately, this is no longer necessary, for Qing has done all that was really required of her. Gather all the enemies together. The hero uses his new spell and deals enormous damage to the demons. While Zhang and his team were on the quest, Tai Daojian arrived in the city, along with members of his guild. An army of 300 people patrolled the city streets. Ordinary players are amazed. What are such a huge squad and the president of a strong guild looking for in such an unremarkable town? Immortals is not just a game, but a whole business for a large number of people. Whole clans gather around the game in real life. One of them is located in the city of Lunteng. The club, called Sunthu, has a huge staff and even special capsules for the game. The club president, Xiongthu Langfeng, was disturbed by his assistant, which is strictly forbidden during a game, but this time there was a good reason. The assistant shows a video from the game's forum, in which a huge squad of Skyvault patrols a second-level city. Wang Xiao says that the guild president has not publicly stated his intentions, but there are rumors that they are planning to take revenge on the one who passed the secret realm ahead of Tai. Xiong states that Tai's true intentions are not revenge, but to strengthen his influence among the guilds. The president puts on his virtual reality helmet and says he is going to the city of Julu. An inspired Wang asks if the boss is really going to sort out this conflict situation. But Xiong has other plans. He is not going to reconcile anyone or smooth things over. Xiong wants to destroy the squad that crossed the path of the firmament. The main character is doing more than well. Monsters die without problems, the level rises, and items drop regularly. There were so many items dropped that Zhang's inventory was completely full before the quest was even completed. But this is not a problem. All low-level things for which the hero cannot get normal money, he uses to improve the crystal ball. Having collected 300 growth units, the main character upgraded his artifact to the gold level. Zhang instantly became much stronger, as his crystal ball now gave him a 40% chance of dealing double damage. While the guy was admiring his improved artifact, new demons appeared. So many of them that Qing, who was fighting them, had no choice but to run to the captain. Fortunately, Zhang noticed in time that his ally was on the verge of death and used his most powerful spell. Right behind the girl knight, monsters began to fall dead to the ground in droves, and she barely managed to run away so that they wouldn't fall on her. These demons were the last batch. Zhang raised his level to 12, and with it 1 unit to the virtual attribute and 4 additional points. A portal appeared in front of the squad. The test is over, and you can return to the city to sell the items you have obtained. However, the main character stops his partners and, with a suspicious look, asks them to wait a little. It turns out there's one more enemy left. A winged demon, a mini-boss with the Bloodthorn ability, which deals 300% damage and causes bleeding, causing the target to lose 100 health units per second for 10 seconds. If this demon were ordinary, it would be more rational to ignore him. But it is from such an enemy that there is a chance to knock out a gold-level item. The battle takes place according to the same tactics. Zhang showers the enemy with a hail of spells and perfectly dodges all attacks, even the fastest ones. It took only 1 minute for the battle to end in favor of the main character. Such a quick fight was definitely worth it. The guy got a gold-level demonic armor, which adds 50 to defense and 15 to strength, and is also able to restore 10% of health per second for 10 seconds. In addition, the hero received a pleasant bonus, a drawing of the Xingguang skirt, a useful thing that will be useful to the neighbor Ruyer in the future. We move forward half an hour to the city gates, where Xiong and his assistant Wang stand, waiting for the mortal squad. According to the Xionghu clan, the firmament has walked around the entire city and has not found its target, which means these 3 are now on a mission. The president's guess was correct. Zhang's squad was approaching the gates. The guy immediately recognized 2 members of the Shunthu club and was puzzled by what they were doing here and why they were looking at them so strangely. Without looking the 2 in the eye, the protagonist walks past, and at that moment, Xiong quietly tells Zhang that he and his group are being hunted by the Heavenly Vault Guild. Tao and Qing, unlike the captain, do not understand the situation at all. They ask who these people are and why an entire guild is hunting them. Zhang states that the guild president most likely wants to take revenge on them for completing the secret realm before him, so they need to split up. He instructs the girls to find out the news while he sorts out his own affairs. The heroines accepted the boss's order, and the squad went in different directions. Tao and Qing went to get information, and Zhang went to the main mansion. First, the main character decides to dump his things in a rented shop, which the guy called the Treasure Pavilion. The hero put most of the items up for sale, mostly for 20 to 30 gold, except for the demonic armor, the price of which has not yet been determined. At one point, 2 messages arrive at once from Qing and Tao. Qing found out that the Heavenly Vault sent 300 of its people after them, and Tao found out that in addition to the Heavenly Vault, 3 more guilds are hunting for their squad. Things are taking an interesting turn. Zhang just completed a quest, and half the server turned against him. But this doesn't scare him at all. he knows another way to inflame the anger of pathetic guilds. In one of the bars on Qingxi Alley, a poorly dressed man is drinking and can barely stand on his chair. Suddenly, someone calls out to him from behind, "President," and that someone turns out to be the main character. This is the start of a hidden quest. Find the city president drinking in a remote bar to receive a quest from him. Zhang receives a notification about accepting a mission. The guy needs to get hearts that drop from the fiery stone hearts in the lands of Ash. The more hearts the player brings, the higher the reward. But the quest has a time limit of 3 hours, and the president also gives Zhang advice, as the first one to find him, not to mess with the King of Flame. After some time, the presidents of the Heavenly Vault and World Kings Guilds approach the same bar. Players listen to the same NPC monologue and are immediately inspired. This time, they intend to be the first to complete the limited task. The Firmament has immediately sent its strongest fighters to the Ashlands to complete a limited quest, while only a small number of players are claiming it. One of the members of the code asks the president about the mortal, to which he orders his people to forget about those three for the duration of the quest. At the closing crossroads, the Firmament encounters another faction, the Kings of the World, and both guilds are not happy to see each other. The guild presidents exchange a few words. Tai asks him to stay out of the way, and Quanzhen teases him about the millions spent on the bloody sword. Meanwhile, the main characters, who took this task earlier than everyone else, go along a long road and bypass all the players, which raises questions for Tao. The protagonist explains that the task and the mobs are just a deceptive maneuver, and in fact they came here for another purpose. It turns out that the mortal squad came for the local boss, the King of Flamestones, level 15. Who is able to attack with spikes and magma, and also strengthen himself with each player he defeats. But even such a monster has weaknesses, and Zhang is going to take advantage of them. The guy will distract the king, and at this time Qing and Tao will get close to his nest, and, on command, break the fire crystal lying in it. Zhang attacks this colossus, but it doesn't even feel what is, by game standards, a huge amount of damage. Fortunately, it doesn't matter now. The monster moved from its place, leaving the caves under its claws empty. That's where the Night Girl and the Summoner are heading. Having descended, the girls see a glowing scarlet crystal, which is simply impossible not to notice. If you break it, the boss will lose his power for half an hour. The protagonist, with the Flamestone King on his tail, runs straight into the guild columns, forcing them to part, and receives a message from his allies that they have found the crystal they need. In the blink of an eye, Zhang jumps into the high tree branches and disappears from the guild members' sight, leaving them alone with the boss. The guy looks down on these soldiers. He wants to make the Firmament help him kill this boss, and, yawning, Zhang gives the command to destroy the crystal. Seeing that this giant had weakened, the players' spirits were lifted. Now they were absolutely sure that the president would deal with him. Tai easily dispatches packs of enemies with his irresistible weapon, which cost him a fortune. Suddenly, in the midst of the massacre, he receives a message from a guild member asking for help in killing a level 15 boss who has appeared. Tai calls back his men and throws all his forces towards the boss's location. He can't miss him this time. The sudden explosion of the Heavenly Vault puzzled the Guild of the Kings of the World. Quanzhen, knowing Tai, understands that something interesting has happened. Smaller guilds also followed the Kings of the World. The Heavenly Prophet group also suspected something and began pursuing them. Very small guilds, individual squads, individual players, all ran headlong after the Heavenly Vault. Meanwhile, the not-so-strong squad of the Vault, which had encountered the King of Flame Stones, was already barely holding back the boss. Luckily for these fighters, the President and his allies are already visible from behind the trees, but they are not alone, but with a whole motorcade from almost the entire location. A person of importance in the firmament, Wanfa Guizong, tells Tai that someone is planning to prevent him from defeating the boss fairly and wants to profit from it. Tai replies that he has asked his men to join forces with other guilds to clear the field. However, they must remain on guard, and he asks Wanfu to keep an eye on the situation. Quanzhen was informed that the firmament was asking for the area to be cleared for battle, but he was not going to just sit back and be content with small fry. The players supported the idea of the President of the Kings of the World. Since this boss is natural, then absolutely everyone has the right to fight him. With Tai's plan now gone wrong, all he can do is start the fight and try to land the final blow to get the experience and gold level item. Dozens of spells and arrows flew at the weakened boss, but he can't do anything and just takes all this damage, for now. By this time, Tao and Qing have already reached the captain, who epically descends to them and declares that this is an excellent way to take revenge on the firmament. Zhang asks if the girls remember the Flamestone King's talent, Fire Life, which allows one to strengthen oneself by killing players. Tao finally realizes what the captain is planning. He wants the Firmament and other guilds to help him strengthen the boss. The monster has 30% of its health points left, and the protagonist begins a slow countdown of seconds until its rage. 5 seconds later, the Flamestone King is once again a seething killing machine, dispatching a couple of players with one swing. The presidents of all the guilds ordered their people to run away immediately, but it was too late. The boss used his skill, and the entire ground around was covered with sharp stalagmites. Tai runs away from the spikes and commands the surviving soldiers on how to escape this attack. The King of Flamestones has restored 8% of his health, but these are minor details. What is important is that he has become much more bloodthirsty and ferocious. After leaving the skill's range, a member of his guild snuck up on Tai and said that most of the dead were players from small guilds, meaning there was still a chance. Such power surprised absolutely everyone present. Now they are ready to fight under the command of the President of the Firmament to kill this beast. On command, hundreds of players took up battle formation and prepared for both defense and attack. The Knights' simultaneous pinpoint attack proved extremely effective. The soldiers were able to take away 5% of the boss's health. Behind the Knights are dozens of archers, mages, and priests, also making their contribution, and Tai commands it all. The king launched an aggressive attack, but most of the Knights, even the least skilled ones, were able to dodge his attacks. Qing begins to worry that the guilds will steal their loot, but Zhang is completely confident that they will lose completely. The summoner asks if the captain is confident in the monster's victory because of the second skill, and he denies this, after which Tao notices that the king has begun to move faster. This is the key to the mystery. As expected from the best summoner in the last game, the protagonist states that the matter is again in the fiery life, namely its further improvement. While the boss fights, it feeds on life energy and becomes stronger, and the longer the fight goes on, the stronger and stronger it becomes until it evolves and reaches the gold level. Finally, Zhang revealed his genius plan. He pitted guilds against the boss so that they would help strengthen him to gold level so that he would drop a rare item. With the king at only 9% health remaining, players are confident that they are almost at the finish line. The thief who snuck up on Tai skillfully dodges the boss's claws and counts the seconds until his guild's victory over him. There are 2% left, literally one group attack. But the boss, instead of a new attack or escape, suddenly flared up and began to burn like the sun. Nobody understands or sees anything. Maybe it's a death attack or a regeneration skill. This flash marked a new stage of the battle, the evolution of the Flamestone King to the gold level. Intoxicated by the anticipation of victory and tired from the long battle, the players can no longer resist the strengthened monster. The battle is gaining momentum as Zhang and his squad finally enter the fray. Tao asks if the captain thinks that such revenge is too cruel, but the protagonist believes that they deserved it. Vanfa asks the president to retreat, save the remaining warriors, and bring the city president what they managed to obtain. But Tai, although he understands that victory is no longer possible, cannot simply leave, but orders the rest of the guild members to retreat. At this moment, the Flamestone King notices Tai and directs his fireball straight at him. Vanfa and Tai only had time to glance at this spell before it hit them straight away and created a huge explosion. Tai is still alive, but barely holding on to consciousness. The last thing he sees is the very same squad that took away his opportunity to be the first to pass through the secret kingdom. Zhang approaches the dying body of the president of the firmament and is amazed by his resilience. Tao hopes that the captain is not going to attack the boss right now, and Zhang is quick to reassure her. They will attack when the king returns to his nest. The boss is already leaving. The heroes would have moved right after him, but for now they need to get rid of extra eyes. Zhang talks about the reporters Yang Chai and Yinzhou hiding in the tree. They would have the hottest report since the server opened, but the protagonist clearly hinted that if these two do not leave, he will send them to the respawn point. The King of Flamestones has almost reached his abode. He has a new ability. When upon losing 30% of his health, he creates a lake of magma around him. This time the main character has no tactics. He tells his allies that he will defeat the boss alone, and asks them to step back and not expose themselves to attacks. Zhang starts the attack right away with his new AoE spell, Lesser Light Apocalypse. The fight has begun. The main character's damage is comparable to the damage of the entire guild alliance. This is both amazing and makes you worry, because it means that the boss will use skills almost in a row. And so it happens. The battle lasts for a few seconds, and the king has already used his stone spikes. But Zhang has an idea on how to defend against them. The main character literally slips between the stalagmites and does not allow himself to be touched by them. Qing is amazed at how the captain literally anticipates the appearance of the spike. But Tao has a logical explanation for this. Before it emerges, the spike creates a small crack in the ground, and Jiang, thanks to his reflexes and speed, notices them and dodges perfectly. Jiang continues to rain attacks on the Flamestone King, the fight proceeding without any problems, just like all his previous battles. The more players, the stronger the boss becomes, and all those mages, knights, and priests were nowhere near the main character in strength. The monster has 80% of its health left, so it uses the attack it received after evolution, Lava Rain, which releases clots of lava from the boss's mouth. Not a single blow or even a single drop hit Jiang. His speed is so high that it visually seems like he created clones of himself. The king has lost another 10% of his health points, and he uses Magma Lake, an extremely dangerous and massive attack, so it can only be avoided. The main character has risen into the air. It will be very difficult for the boss to get him here, so this is a great moment for a flurry of spells. The reporters, at their own risk, continued to follow the squad, hiding among dead trees far from the battlefield. Yin thinks this is an unwise decision, but Yang is sure that in the heat of battle they will not be noticed at all, and so they will be able to write a real sensation. But they do not see the battle itself, but only hear it. In one moment, the fog cleared, and what Yin saw scared her to the point of goosebumps. The Flamestone King was defeated, and the first thing the reporters saw was his lifeless corpse. In just one fight, Jiang leveled up 3 times and reached 15th level, but that's not as important as the items dropped by this boss. The first thing he got was a fire crystal, the heart of the King of Firestones, which is equivalent to 1,000 hearts of Firestones. Also, the hero received the Demon Eater's Mantle, which adds 1,000 units of mana, and the ability to absorb 10% of the enemy's mana. And last in line were the Lightning Staff, which adds 140 units to the power of spells, and can slow down the attack and movement speed of enemies by 50% for a second. And the Skill God Stone, used to upgrade skills. The items are so powerful that no one can buy them yet, so the main character equips them himself. A robe with a mana absorption effect makes the guy more resilient, and a new staff allows you to slow down opponents for a second, which does not sound very useful. But the weapon has no limits on the use of this skill. That is, opponents can be frozen constantly. The 3-star skill stone is also a useful artifact that is used to level up skills, and can be synthesized with other stones to increase its level. Such crystals can be bought from NPCs, but to buy them, you need to be level 20, which means no one can buy it yet. The protagonist used this stone on his Lesser Light Apocalypse. The spell's radius increased by 5 meters, and its damage doubled. The mortal squad headed back to the city. The journalist pursuers still did not leave, but it does not matter, because they will not be able to interfere in any way. The heroes turned around and walked towards Julu. The reporters were frightened when they saw Jiang's gaze directed straight at them, but they immediately calmed down when he began to leave. Yang and Yin also went to the city to post the fight they saw on the game's forum. The group arrived at the main mansion. Jiang is going to hand over the quest to the city president, and asks his partners to look for new tasks. The heroes disperse. Jiang comes to the mayor, who is relaxedly reading some book in his office. He immediately asks how many stones the traveler managed to collect. Instead of answering, the protagonist simply takes the heart of the Flamestone King out of his bag, shocking the president. While examining the heart, the mayor says that he doesn't even know how he can reward his companion, and Jiang tells him that he doesn't expect any grand rewards, but simply offers to give each of his squad just a book on the mysterious change of profession. The president was taken aback. He said that there were not 3 such books in the whole city. Jiang begins to inflate his value. The hero declares that he and his squad have gone through hellish difficulties and were on the verge of death a couple of times. The angry mayor replies that the city really doesn't have 3 such rare books, so he reluctantly gives the traveler an extremely expensive alternative reward. The reward for completing the limited quest included a mysterious job change book that allowed the player to change their class, a growth book that increased their level by 1, and a city blessing that allowed them to avoid the Julu trial once a day. The feud between Jiang and the Heavenly Vault Guild has not died down at all. The protagonist is absolutely sure that after he once again stole the opportunity from Tai to be the first to kill the boss, Tai Daojian hated him even more. The president of the Heavenly Vault Guild threatens the mortal squad on the forum. The heroes are not going to put up with it. Qing asks how the captain plans to put them in their place. However, Jiang asks his allies to remain in the mansion and continue to look for tasks, and he intends to meet with Tai and his henchmen alone. The news that a member of the president's hated mortal squad had left the main mansion alone immediately reached Tai's people. Having learned about this, Tai smiled sarcastically. Apparently, these 3 really do not value the firmament. but now the guild will take it out on this priest for everything. In Tai's eyes, the priest was just a small prey, so he did not mobilize his main forces to deal with him, but only sent a small detachment to him. Jiang wasn't surprised by the crowd of players. He had been waiting for them for a long time, and it was on them that he would test his enhanced spell. Tai-Dai's vassal angrily accuses the priest of unleashing the invincible boss on them, but the hero replies that he is not responsible for their weakness. The magician became even more angry. He prepared for an attack and threatened Jiang that he would send him back to the village of newbies. His squad also took up battle positions. Even though there was a simple priest in front of them, they were preparing just like before a boss fight. But the main character raises his staff above his head and uses Lesser Light Apocalypse. Now is a good opportunity to test his strength. The ground beneath the player's feet literally trembles. The spell has spread throughout the entire street. The terrifying effects were followed by a flurry of insanely powerful attacks, leaving none of the attackers alive except one. Jiang was slightly disappointed. He had expected more from this fight and was unable to unleash the full power of the new spell. Apparently, he would have to test it on monsters. The last remaining member of the firmament who attacked Jiang screams in fear that the city guards will not let him get away with this, and will definitely punish him. The protagonist arrogantly replies that it doesn't matter whether he survives or not, but this archer will definitely die, and then finishes off his life. The local police do indeed quickly arrive at the scene of the battle, and declare that the use of force within the city is a violation of the law and is punishable by death. But the main character has a counter-argument to this, the blessing of the city, which allows him to avoid punishment for the crime in Juilu. The soldier immediately cooled his ardor, saying that since Jiang was responsible for the city, he had no right to arrest him, but still asked the priest not to do it again. To free up some space in his inventory, the protagonist went to the main mansion and dumped the low-level items in his shop and put the demonic armor up for auction. Jiang took out the book of mysterious job change to receive a quest. A new task appeared in his menu. He must go to the land of Qian, touched by the demon god, which is in the south of the Fire City, and find the rebel Yiding there. The protagonist is surprised by the quest he received. In a past life, the Fire City was destroyed as a result of an uprising by the natives of the land of Qian. The rebellion spread to neighboring cities, and a huge number of players died. This was the first case of the destruction of an entire main city. Suddenly, Jiang received a notification from the system, informing him that a certain moon dancer had started the second stage of this quest. Strange things were starting to happen in the game, which were not present in Jiang's past life. 10 minutes before, the dark-skinned girl on the land of Qian reached the crystal pillar that held back the local evil spirits. This curvy girl is the same moon-dancing player who overtook Jiang. As soon as she touched the crystal, a bunch of cracks appeared on it, and the system began sending out warnings in batches that after the destruction of the stone, monsters would crawl out all over the server, and a penalty would be imposed for failing the quest. These notifications made the girl think. She decided to wait and go to the forum to see if anyone on the server could resist these demons. I didn't have to scroll the site for long. The first news item announced that 3 players had defeated the first gold-level boss on the server. Seeing this title, the doubts immediately disappeared from the moon dancer's head. She made a light swing, and with one blow broke the crystal into small pieces. Tao and Qing, who were looking for hidden tasks, received an interesting notification about a quest for all players on the server. In 24 hours, the gates in the lands of Qian will open, and a huge number of monsters will crawl out from there. If the gathered players do not defeat them and allow all 9 pillars to be destroyed, they will receive a penalty, namely a reduction in all attributes by 20%. The quest is described rather strangely, and nothing is said about the reward. Tao decides to contact the captain and ask if their squad will take this quest, to which Jiang responded with a meek yes, with an exclamation mark. The main character made an appointment with his partners tomorrow at exactly 12 near the teleportation point, after which he finally returned to the real world. Sister Ruyer, seeing the light burning in Jiang's room, knocked on his door and called him to eat for the first time that day. The boy crawled out of his room, his eyes wide open, and Zia told him that even if Jiang made a lot of money in the game, he definitely shouldn't neglect his health. Jiang's mind still hasn't returned to reality. The girl tells him to go down and eat, because she doesn't want anyone in her house to die of hunger. The next day, at the meeting place of the Mortal Squad, where Qing and Tao had already arrived, a whole crowd of representatives from different guilds gathered. They began to praise their clans, and asked Qing to pay attention to them. The girls regret that they came here, because Qing doesn't like the popularity that has suddenly fallen on her at all. Luckily, in the crowd of fans, Qing Tao notices the captain, who has absolutely no idea what is going on here. After hearing the explanation of the situation from her allies, Jiang asks them to ignore it, as they need to move on to the Fire City. The Fire City, unlike Jiang's memories from his past life, is not abandoned at all. We see luxurious snow-white mansions. Qing and Tao are new to the city, and are amazed by the beauty of the architecture, particularly the decision to make most of the buildings out of white jade. The main character asks his partners not to slow down. There will be plenty of time to enjoy the local beauty, and the quest will begin soon. Qing then asks the captain why they didn't teleport directly to their destination, to which Jiang replies that the Qian lands can only be reached through the Desert of Death. The heroes set off into a desert with the frightening name of the Desert of Death. The conditions are harsh, but so far everything is going well. They come across human bones. These are not just textures, but traces of their predecessors who were unlucky. These players were killed by the most dangerous creatures of this desert, desert worms, which although they do not have monstrous strength, are very good at camouflage. The girl's fighting spirit dropped below the baseboard. The captain might react to the attack of these worms, but they are unlikely to. Meanwhile, the lands of Qian enjoy the last moments of peace. Players from all over the server are already starting to flock here, wanting to participate in the group task and get a piece of the reward. The reporters we know, Yang and Yin, also came, and their level will not allow them to make a serious contribution to the battle, but they simply cannot miss such an event. The girl who started this quest stands behind the arch and watches the players. She is very worried, because so far the very squad she bet on the most has not shown up. Fortunately, the main character and his allies did not have to wait long. Soon these three appeared at the gate. While Tao and Qing were looking around the city, Jiang felt that someone was watching them. It was Moondancer. The protagonist asks why the girl is following them, to which she replies that she wants to offer them cooperation. The girl states that she has valuable information that she will kindly share with them. But for this, Jiang and his squad must fulfill two conditions. The conditions are to allow her to join their squad and follow all her instructions during the battle. Looking at the girl as if she was crazy, Jiang declares that this is impossible, and his partners agree. The Moondancer says that without her information the quest will be impossible to complete, so the mortal should agree. Jiang confidently replies that the girl is mistaken, and he will easily complete the task without this information, after which he leaves with the squad. Realizing that this alliance is needed only by her, Moondancer catches up with the protagonist and asks to allow her to join their squad, because her knowledge will be truly useful. Jiang says that he will gladly accept her into the group, but she will have to obey his orders, and the girl agrees. Yue, as the Moondancer is called, begins her story. In the land of Qian, there are 9 bronze, 3 silver, and 1 golden sealed gates. These gates are the breeding grounds of monsters. From the moment the quest begins, the gates will open once an hour in order of increasing demon strength. The girl says that the first gates will open in half an hour, which means they need to leave immediately. Xing reproachfully reminds Yue that she is not the captain and has no right to make decisions for the squad. But the troubles don't end with just monsters. Demonic energy also oozes from the open gates. Players infected by it lose the ability to regenerate and become weaker. The higher the energy level, the weaker the infected become. The heroine also adds an item called Demon Fragment Suppression, an artifact that allows you to temporarily close the gate. The information didn't exactly impress Jiang, but it was still useful. The protagonist asks if Yue knows the location of the sealed gate. The girl takes out a map and offers to take them straight to the gate, but Jiang refuses. The protagonist says that he has other business in the nearby village, which shocks Yue. The mission is about to begin, and Jiang seems to be mocking her. The mortal squad arrives in full force at Wumen village. Jiang asks a random old man if he knows a man named Yindi. The elderly man replies that he was literally taken away from the village yesterday, and now he is most likely sitting in the dungeon of the holy city. The old man's words shock Jiang. Yindi should be in the village, so says the quest and memories from a past life. So the hero comes to the conclusion that this is a lie. The boy asks the old man where Yindi's house is, and then leaves, asking his allies to wait for him here. Yu asks why they are postponing the server-wide mission, to which she receives disapproving reproaches and phrases about how she herself joined their squad, and no one is holding her back. Meanwhile, Jiang finds Yindi's poor house, enters it and shouts from the threshold for him to come out, because the hero knows that he is here. And indeed, the one needed for Zhang Yindi's task comes out of the closet and asks the hero if he is the same traveler who came to his aid. Having received a positive answer, the guy takes out a letter from his bosom and asks Jiang to take it to Lisan and tell her that Yindi was slandered, and he did not touch that woman. The hero took the envelope and thus accepted a new quest. Now he needs to find the Holy Court in the city of Scarlet Flame. There the player must give the letter to the servant of the Holy Lord, Lisan. Jung returns to his squad and they head to the city of Scarlet Flame. But the new member of the group is in no hurry to go. Yue was already tired of persuading the priest to look for the gate. She stood up, stopped the squad, and asked directly why Jiang does not take the quest of the entire server seriously. She pulled out her machete and asked where the mortal was planning to go with a server-wide mission looming. With slight tension, the protagonist replies that the first gate that opens will be bronze level, which means their squad has nothing to do there. Putting his words into action, Yue lunges towards the retreating Jiang, holds his weapon to his throat and declares that he can't just leave like that. She told the hero all the necessary information, and now he must prove that it was not a waste of time. Then Jiang comes up with a strange idea on how to prove his strength to the girl. He grabs her hand with the weapon and instantly bends it at the elbow, then twists it. An embarrassed Yue, with a bruised wrist, demands to be released, then says that he meant fighting skills, not brute force. In any case, Jiang does not intend to change his mind. He offers the girl to leave the team, and then he will pay her for the information provided. It turned out that in this alley there was not only the mortal squad, but also the hidden reporters, Yin and Yang, whom Jiang had noticed from the very beginning. But this time the main character is glad to see these two. He remembers that they were in that forest. Seeing that the priest is positively disposed towards them, Yin smiles warmly and replies that they just want to film some material here. But Jiang is not being kind to reporters for no reason. He asks them to advertise his shop in Julu City, where gold-level equipment is currently on sale. The heroes had no choice but to agree and leave, feeling that they had just been used. The conversation continues. The protagonist goes to the city of Scarlet Flame and asks if Yue has decided what to do next. Stay in the squad, where it is not a fact that she will be able to be of use to Jiang, or go to the gate alone. The girl, as the one who started the quest, received a notification that the first gate had already been attacked. In response, Jiang asks if the 10,000 players who came to this quest can't handle bronze-level monsters. Yue decides to leave the team after all, but adds Jiang as a friend so that he can contact her when he sorts out his affairs. The girl leaves, and the protagonist notices in his head that Yue is indeed attractive. The heroes disperse, and Mortal's squad comes to the gates of the city of Scarlet Flame, and realizes that getting there will not be so easy. The city guards stood in the way of the heroes. Visitors are allowed entry only by invitation. Jiang calmly tells the guard that he has a letter for Lady Lisan from the Holy Palace. The letter falls under the category of an invitation, but it is necessary to make sure that the recipient is waiting for this letter, so the guard orders to wait outside the gate until it reaches Lisan. A few minutes later, the warrior returns and says that Lady Lisan is waiting for them in the palace garden. Unfortunately, Qing and Tao did not let them through. Only the one delivering the letter can pass through, so the girls will have to wait for the captain outside. The main character walked around the city. There were plenty of guards around. There was no way Yindi could get in here. Soon Jiang comes to a very well-kept garden where Lisan, a young, sweet girl with golden hair, is sitting at a table. Without further ado, Lisan demanded that the letter be given to her. The protagonist asks if she knows who it is from, to which the girl replies that only Yindi could have written to her. The girl opens the letter and reads it with an evil grin. She says that Yindi turned out to be surprisingly not a failure. Apparently, Lisan has no feelings for Yindi, neither romantic nor friendly. After finishing the message, the girl turned to Jiang and asked if he was Yindi's friend, to which the hero, slightly frightened, replied that he was just a traveler on a mission. Then, Lisan offers the guy a new job. She wants Jiang to kill Yindi. In exchange, she will give him 1,000 gold. The hero is, to put it mildly, surprised. Such a beautiful girl really does have a hard heart. Refusing, as Jiang's intuition tells him, will lead to big troubles. So for now, he agrees to this quest, in order to buy time to think. As he leaves, the protagonist thinks about how to get out of this situation. Because if he kills Yindi, the task of changing profession will fail. In one of the garden's flower beds, Jiang notices a wilting flower, against the background of other plants that are blooming and fragrant. This one looks like a prop for a task. Even if the guy's guess is wrong, no one will be hurt if he takes this flower with him just in case. With a flower and a new mission, the protagonist returns to the village of Wumen and comes to the house of a local rebel, Yindi. Sleepy Yindi opens the door and immediately, without letting the traveler cross the threshold, begins to ask him about Lisan. Jiang replies that there was no problem delivering the letter, but when it reached Lisan, she ordered the sender to be killed. Yindi screams that this can't be. She saved his life, and they both swore allegiance to each other until the end of their days. Hearing this, the main character looked at his interlocutor with bewilderment. Yindi seemed to be talking about a completely different person. A month ago, nothing foreshadowed trouble. Yindi confessed his love to Lisan. She reciprocated and let him into the holy city. But yesterday, the hero woke up to find an unfamiliar girl sitting on him. The guards immediately ran into the house and accused Yindi of harassing this girl. In that letter, the guy described the whole truth of that day and asked to give it to Lisan, whom he still loves, so he does not believe that she could want him dead. Then the protagonist asks if the thought ever occurred to Yindi that all of this could have been set up by Lisan herself. Jiang knew from his previous life that the unrest in the land of Qian was caused by the Holy Lord being bewitched by a demon, so it was no surprise that his maid had also changed in character. The protagonist asks if his interlocutor saw anything strange when he was in the holy city. After some thought, he remembers a strange dead sunflower and writes about it to his girlfriend. Taking out a flask containing a flower dug up from the garden, Jiang asks if this is the plant that caught Yindi's eye when he was patrolling the city. The guy was surprised that the traveler had that very flower, but he did not focus on it. Sunflowers are not uncommon in the city of Scarlet Flame, but there is something foreign in the aura of this flower. In order to neutralize the aura of the Jian flower, Yindi needs to use his cold, and to do this, he needs to reach the Forest of Love at the foot of Mount Qian, in which the guy asks the traveler for help. The hero happily agrees. The entire squad of the mortal accompanies Yindi to the foot of Mount Qian, but no forest is visible here. The rebel uses his magic, and this entire dead wasteland turns into a snowy spruce forest. This beauty has not always been here. It all started 15 years ago, when the traveler magician Yang Changfeng came here and fell in love with a local girl. Their happiness did not last long. The ruler of the Qian lands soon fell ill, and Yan had to flee from here. But in order not to leave the love of his life alone, he gave her this forest as a parting gift. After Yang left this place, that girl went through difficult trials to become the lord of the Scarlet Flame Holy Land and hid this place. Jiang is touched by the story, though not as much as his partners, and he asks Yindi to begin the purification ritual as soon as possible. The guy starts to cleanse the dead flower's aura with his cold and says that the process will take at least 5 hours. Tao approaches the captain and whispers that they don't have that much time. Some player mistakenly destroyed the remaining seal, and now the gates open faster. The 4th gate will open soon. People on the forum are afraid that no one will be able to cope with silver and gold level monsters. The main character needs to move to Mount Qian. Only he can cope with the threat of the gold level. The squad says goodbye to Yindi and asks to continue when they return. Meanwhile, in the holy city, a guard informs Lisan that the traveler who visited her lingered in the garden when he left, but the girl already knows about it. Lisan immediately realized that the traveler was not going to cooperate with her, which meant she needed to deal with him as well. Fierce battles are taking place on Mount Qian. Bronze-level monsters are crawling out of every crack, and only the 4th gate is open. The players are already running out of strength and mana, when suddenly from behind the hill appears the very squad that, according to rumors, killed the gold-level boss. The heroes approach the mountain and receive a notification from the system. Entering this territory, they automatically accept the full quest, the reward from which is given for killed monsters, and distributed among the group members. Having agreed, the squad climbed Mount Qian. Qing and Tao ask the captain for a plan of action, and Zhang says that first they need to find Dancing in the Moon, who is already dealing with crowds of enemies. The girl thanks the 3 of them for coming early. She thought the priest would be waiting for the opening of the last golden gates. The heat of battle does not subside, but on the contrary, only intensifies. The gates open earlier than expected, and the 5th gate will open at the same time as the 6th. The main character was not so much scared as surprised that 2 gates would open at the same time, meaning that the flow of demons would at least double. The wolf-like monsters are pressing extremely hard, which is why regular players suffer. Mages are already running out of mana, archers have almost no arrows left, and warriors are barely able to find the strength to block attacks. Yi suggests that Jiang, a frail-looking priest, step back and heal them from afar, but the hero refuses and prepares to surprise the girl. While the enemies are attacking one by one, the protagonist decides to use his very first spell so as not to waste his strength in vain. However, this does not frighten the demon in any way. He loses 20% of his health, but continues to run at Jiang. Then, he offers Qing the same strategy that they used in the demon realm. The girl immediately understood what the captain was talking about, made a dash forward, raised her shield and blocked several attacks of the monsters. Now, Jiang was determined to show off his full power, taking out his crystal ball and using his strongest mass spell, Small Light Apocalypse. The wolves had already felt this damage. 2,400 units for one blow, of which there were 10. Yue is in complete shock at the power of a mere priest, a common state for those who see Jiang in battle for the first time. The power is truly amazing, but the demons are still alive, so the heroes continue to act according to the same strategy. After a couple of minutes, Qing and Zhang were surrounded, but still untouched. Qing's shield and the protagonist's spells held back the monsters, but did not make them easier to kill. Zhang states that killing these demons takes too much time, so it would be more rational to close the gates from which they emerge. The heroes go on the offensive. Yue says that each sealed gate releases 4 groups of enemies, 3 normal and 1 elite. Also, while the squad passes by the corpses of low-level demons, the assassin girl adds that weak enemies only drop experience, and items can only be obtained from bosses. After killing another enemy, Qing and Tao boast to the captain that they are already level 15, and Zhang is sincerely happy for them, because the higher the level of his partners, the stronger the effect of Cupid's blessing. The girls have no time to rejoice. They have approached the gates of the 5th level, from which very dangerous demonic energy is oozing. Yue insistently asks to be extremely careful, because this energy is easy to become infected with. And after dying with it, the player loses 20% of all attributes. But Zhang, without having time to listen to the end, becomes infected almost immediately. Demonic energy does not allow regeneration, so it is too dangerous to come close. But the main character has a different point of view. He offers to enter. Yu is shocked again. She reminds him of the loss of 20% of attributes after death. But Jiang does not listen to this, because he is sure that no one there can kill him. Meanwhile, in the Forest of Love, Yindi continues to work tirelessly over the flask with the dead flower and a handful of earth. Once the soil is completely cleared, the guy will be able to figure out where this strange smell and aura is coming from. But unfortunately, someone apparently came to prevent him from doing this. This is Lee-san, who, as we found out earlier, has absolutely no romantic feelings for Yindi. And judging by the expression on her face, they didn't come just to talk. Before Yindi had time to turn around to see who had decided to disturb him, he was suddenly shackled in magical chains and raised a couple of meters above the ground. Without saying a word, Lee-san took the flask with the dead sunflower and left, leaving the guy to levitate in that position. Inside the demonic gate, the heroes almost immediately came across the boss, the moon demon wolf, and were already preparing to start a fight with him. The battle was about to begin, but suddenly several notifications came from the system. The first was that the opening of the gold-level gate would be delayed for 15 minutes due to a mysterious. And the second was that Lee-san had taken the flask with the flower, and if it was not returned, the quest would fail. A few seconds later, another notification comes. Due to the same mysterious force, all the gates that are gold-level gates will be closed and restored, so the heroes ran back here. The missions overlap one another, forcing Zhang to rush from one thought to another. The guy has firmly decided to first complete the task of the entire server, and only then begin to change his profession. We are transported to the gold-level gates. These are the largest and most closed gates. Almost all the players from Mount Qian have already gathered around them. The firmament is also here. Tai and Wanfa are standing in front of the gate discussing the plan. Wanfa asks if the president is going to take advantage of the chaos to take revenge on the mortal squad, who are also rumored to be on Mount Qian. Tai replies that as the head of the strongest guild, he cannot take rash actions, so he will not immediately get into a fight with a priest, whose power is still unknown how it works. Almost everyone who was in the lands of Ash is now on the mountain. A fierce battle is about to begin, and not everyone will be able to cope with gold-level monsters. The protagonist's squad and Yue finally reach the gate, and the instigator of this whole event asks the mortal to be careful, because these monsters should never be underestimated. In an instant, the faces of all the players changed from mild excitement to strong fear. The chains that sealed the gates broke and fell asleep. And what was Zhang's surprise when, instead of hordes of demon wolves, Lee-san flew out of the gate with a very strong magical aura. Without explaining anything to Yue, the protagonist jumps up and runs into the newly opened gate. Qing and Tao immediately run after him and ask Yue to wait for them outside, as they say they won't be there long. All the players standing around were surprised that someone dared to go straight into the enemy's lair, and almost immediately recognized these 3 abnormal people as the mortal squad. The act is really loud. It will definitely spread on the forum, but the heroes did not yet know that they acted right into the hands of their opponents. Tai orders to use the fragment of demon suppression to close the priest and his group for 5 minutes. The people around, even those who were not members of the Firmament Guild, supported this idea. Those who also had a fragment used it to take revenge on the priest, who, in their opinion, was taking too much on himself. And so, the main character is at the gate of the gold level. As soon as he stepped through the gate, he immediately became infected with demonic energy. The entire team is also assembled. Qing and Tao are happy to follow the captain, and Yue, who was not forced to go, convinces herself that she is not here of her own free will. The atmosphere beyond the gates is extremely tense. Crowds of familiar wolf-like demons roam around, and Lisan hovers in the sky above them. The girl uses some kind of spell, after which the attention of all the demons in the area is riveted to the heroes. But misfortune never comes alone. Zhang and his entire team receive a notification from the system that the players outside have used suppression fragments and blocked the gate entrance for 20 minutes. It is not difficult to guess that someone wants Zhang dead. But he does not intend to give up. The guy turns to his allies and asks them to strictly follow his instructions. Suddenly, a huge red dragon flies up to the already dangerous Lisan and stands behind her. Fortunately, the dragon is still inactive, unlike the wolf demons, who began an attack on the heroes almost at once. Zhang's first order is to tell Tao to stay back and cover the others with his summons. The girl immediately follows the captain's order. She takes a couple of steps back and summons her most powerful weapon, Da Hong. Qing Ying doesn't need any explanation, because she knows her role, to gather enemies closer together and block attacks. With Yue, you need to protect everyone from the side, kill single monsters and be careful. The girl has an intuition that she is fighting with not very honest people, but in any case, she has no choice. Yue covers Qing's back so that she can gather enemies into piles without interference and kill packs of enemies with one blow. And the girl knight really succeeds. She delivers a blow called Light Swing and cuts the demon in half. Qing has become much stronger. This is indeed good damage, but clearly not what the numerous rumors that circulate around Qing Yue say. Yue asks about this, to which he receives a request to keep it a secret. While the girls were talking, the protagonist prepared for a large-scale attack and asked Qing to bring the monsters to him. She instantly attracted the attention of a whole horde of demons and ran to the captain so that he could deal with them in one fell swoop. That's what happens. The guy uses one lesser light apocalypse, and all the enemies are gone. Killing these monsters is not a difficult task, but they take quantity rather than quality. So the main character plans to concentrate on elite enemies. Meanwhile, Tao is running out of strength. Her summoning animal is already having a hard time coping. Because the allies began to give up their positions, one monster broke through the squad's defense and bit the main character on the leg just below the knee. Another demon, larger, broke out after him and was about to bite Jiang's neck, who was unable to counterattack because he was waiting for the skill to recharge. Yue covers the protagonist's back, asking what the priest is going to do against elite enemies whose health bar is much larger than that of ordinary ones. The girl could have gone on to deal with more powerful demons, or to help Qing, but she stays with Jiang. When he asks why she is still helping him, Yue replies that the mortal is now in her debt. Yue asks Jiang for his next plan of action. He is surprised that she still cares about his commands. The guy pulls her to him by the waist and says that he wants to show her something. The heroes use Blink to teleport to Tao, and Jiang asks Yue to just watch. Another demon attacks the motionless protagonist. Will Yue have to save him from an ordinary monster again? But no. Now that Jiang's skills have been restored, he is full of strength. The hero jumps a couple of meters up and delivers his usual blow, which immediately kills the monster. Qing looked at the captain and his stateliness. But he asked not to be distracted from the battle, and the heroes began to fight according to the old tactics. Qing distracts, and Jiang deals with them. Having dealt with the enemy party, the protagonist turns to his allies. He again asks them to follow his instructions, and reminds them that they must not die under any circumstances now. At this time, on the other side of the gate, Tai and the entire firmament rejoice at their not-so-honest victory over the priest. Most are confident that this case will serve as an example for overly arrogant newcomers. Only one guild does not wish harm on the mortal squad. But they must admit that with the infection, the chances of surviving in the gate dimension are extremely low. Having dealt with all the ordinary monsters and collected 45,000 points in the total score, the heroes prepare for a more dangerous battle. The same dragon that stood behind Lisan all this time is activated. The magic winged dragon of the 19th level, which has 2 attacks in its arsenal. Dragon's Breath and Magic Wings, which it uses when losing 10 and 20% of health, respectively. What worries Jiang most is that Lisan herself disappeared somewhere during the battle with the minions. However, the quest item, a flask with a dead flower, remained here. And apparently, first we need to deal with the dragon. Now the squad is facing a very serious opponent, so the main character asks his partners to step back and not expose themselves to attack. As soon as Jiang got closer to the boss, the dragon immediately began to try to trample him. But the main character is not so simple. He uses blinking again, after which he showers the boss with a barrage of spells. In response to this, the dragon uses one of its skills, Dragon Breath. Zhang tried to dodge this attack, but he failed, and for the first time, the hero took considerable damage. But Zhang is not so easily broken. He activates his signature spell, which disperses the demonic energy around him. Apparently, the fight will be very long, so the main character mentally asks those who are causing mischief behind the gates to wait a little. In just 2 attacks, the guy took away a considerable 20% of the boss's health. So the dragon uses Magic Wings, an attack that deals much more damage than Dragon's Breath. In an instant, several huge tornadoes just like him appear around the boss, intertwining and crashing into each other in the air. The main character tries to dodge, but periodically the tornadoes still cause him huge damage, part of which, fortunately, is absorbed by the equipment. Having regained his balance, Zhang continues to attack the dragon, dodging lightning and tornadoes along the way. After 20 minutes of intense fighting, a message comes from the system that the suppression fragments are almost out of action, which means the gates will soon open again. Motivated, Zhang activates another spell and directs it at the flying dragon, adding a short comment, "Die." Then a huge sphere of magical energy appeared, followed by a notification that a gold-tier boss had been killed. The main character is proud of himself, the first kill of a gold-level boss on the server, and also the 19th level. Yui is happy for her allies, but believes that it is better for her to work alone, so she leaves the team and suggests that they first get out and then rejoice in the victory. The boss dropped a lot of things, a dragon staff and helmet, the properties of which will only appear after clearing the demonic energy, a 3-star book and a fusion crystal, which allows you to add 1 quality of any kind to your main equipment. Zhang also picked up a flask with a dead flower, after which he immediately received a new task, to return this vessel to Yindi. Outside, most are shocked that the gates have opened and no hordes of demons are pouring out of them. People think it's a bug. Tai is equally concerned. He orders someone to be sent there if nothing changes in 2 minutes. To the even greater surprise of the crowd, an attractive silhouette of a girl, Yue, emerges from the newly opened gates. Everyone is amazed that she is still alive and assumes that there is nothing scary in that dimension. Yue, walking through the crowd, is stopped by Tai, who asks if the girl really saved her life by killing that priest's squad. At first, she asks why she should tell anything to members of another guild, but then states that if they want to know about the mortal, they would be better off entering the gate and asking in person. The girl was about to leave, but these two were not going to let her go. Vanfa changed his tone from friendly to aggressive and prepared to attack. The mage uses an ice strike, covering a huge area in rock-hard ice. The attack may be strong and destructive, but it is completely useless against the assassin. Yue dodges with lightning speed, deals a strong blow to Wanfei and ends up behind him. Tai gives the girl one last chance to apologize before she becomes an enemy of the strongest guild on the entire server. At this moment, Zhang swaggers out of the gate and says that it is wrong for 2 people to attack such a fragile lady. The main character walks slowly, while the crowd, surprised that he survived at all, watches silently and steps aside. The guy approaches Yue and asks if she told them that Jiang was going to continue to explore the gate dimension. Also surprised by the priest's appearance, Yue asks what Jiang is doing here if he still has a quest ahead of him, to which he responds with another question about the number of people who are hostile to her, hinting that he is going to deal with them. But the girl says that there are too many of them. The protagonist asks his ally to go back into the gates. Soon it will be safer there than outside them. Even more surprised, the girl asks Jiang to be careful, otherwise she will have to avenge him. Yu leaves, and after moving a couple of meters, turns to the main character, asks him to be careful, and states that she is waiting for good news. Tai and Wanfa say they are amazed that anyone else is still alive and ask about the condition of Jiang's partners, the warrior and summoner. Pointing to the gate, the protagonist replies that the 2 are there now, safe and sound, and if they don't believe it, they can come in and see for themselves. Going there would not be rational. Tai suggests Jiang to lead them out himself, and for this they will not touch him, believing that the weak priest will not even think of fighting back. The main character's answer shocked everyone present. The guy replied that he would agree only if Tai kneeled before him and called him daddy. The guild leader immediately became angry. He raised the bloody sword bought from his sworn enemy over his head and asked if the priest really wanted death. Zhang has heard quite a few threats like this already. The guy is suggesting that everyone who doesn't like him sort things out now, and there are a lot of such people, judging by how many fragments of suppression were used. It didn't take long to convince them. The players immediately began preparing for a large-scale attack. Even more people than there were at the murder of the King of Flame Stones. Hundreds of spells of different types and levels fly at Jiang. The hero has no intention of dodging, reflecting, or counterattacking yet. A huge cloud of smoke rises, and it is impossible to see a priest of ordinary size in such a curtain. Manhwa is certain that no one could survive such an attack. But Tai notes that the player's kill notification has not yet arrived. Indeed, the main character stands motionless and looks at the players from under his brows. He is alive, even though he has lost half his health. Now, it is his turn to use the spell. Zhang uses Lesser Light Apocalypse, and no one predicts anything serious. Everyone assumes that he is just going to heal himself. But this is as far from the truth as possible, which became clear from the huge area of the spell and its strange appearance. Players began to die en masse in seconds. Thanks to his expensive armor, Tai is still standing on his feet. He can't get his head around the fact that the priest instantly destroyed dozens of pumped-up players. But his bewilderment did not last long. Zhang finished him off with his healing and announced his new goal. The hero stands with one foot on the bloody sword he once sold for an insane amount, and says that he is now aiming for the Royal Guild. The representative of the Royal Guild says that they do not hate the Mortals squad, and warns that enmity with them will end sadly for the mortal. From memories of his past life, the protagonist knows that the man standing before him cannot be trusted. In order to eliminate competitors, he conspired with other guilds and destroyed the central city of national services. Zhang asks how the prince's use of a suppression fragment and involvement in the mortal and his party being stuck there for such a long time can't be considered a declaration of war. The guy hesitates slightly, and then replies that using the fragment was just part of the quest, and not a manifestation of hatred towards his squad. The prince also suggests forgetting about everything, but Zhang declares that it is time for the guild to run away from here. The prince, not very confidently, states that the words spoken by the mortal are offensive, and the Royal Guild will not tolerate this. Once again, dozens of spells fly at the hero, and judging by the fact that he only has half his health left, he simply won't be able to withstand this blow. But this is not a problem at all. Zhang moves from side to side, not allowing himself to be hit, and only lets through one weak spell to the shoulder. The protagonist arrogantly asks if this is all that the Royal Guild is capable of. By order of the prince, warriors are replacing the magicians. In his opinion, the priest is not capable of anything in close combat. Zhang does not have any melee attacks, but he does have the ability to teleport, and he uses it in time to appear behind the prince. The guy tried to escape somehow, but he was immediately overtaken by the main character's spell, which immediately killed the prince. Surrounded by unclaimed swords, bows, and staffs, the protagonist thinks that the Royal Guild is quite a large army, and most likely they will be able to help Zhang upgrade the crystal ball to platinum level. Suddenly, the Maple Knight Guildmaster approaches Mortal from behind and states that they used the fragment because everyone else did, and that they actually have nothing against him and his party. Zhang turns around and says that he is willing to make peace with the Maple Knight Guild if the leader gives him 30 pieces of bronze equipment and a list of everyone who used the suppression fragment. The heroes sign the contract, and the leader states that the fragment was used by the World Kings, the Supreme Guild, the Yulong Guild, and a player with the nickname Star of the Last Night. Zhang made many enemies for himself without even noticing it. Looking back, the protagonist noticed how the head of High King's Landing tried to quietly leave the battlefield. Zhang asked why his guild wanted him and his squad dead, to which the player replies that his guys were simply ignorant. These excuses do not work. The main character offers to forget all the grievances for 200 units of bronze equipment. The president tried to bargain, but Zhang stood his ground, so the leader decides to use his ace in the hole. He uses a bolt that comes straight out of his forehead. Soul Thorn, a very powerful spell that is very hard to dodge. The attack hits Zhang straight in the chest and pierces him through and through. 1,000 health damage means death for the hero. The surviving players are shocked. The Major League did not claim such talents from its members. Could the mortal have died so easily? The damage was colossal. But the main character dies in a strange way. Usually, after death, players immediately appear at the respawn point. But now Zhang for some reason began to disintegrate into fragments. Suddenly, the protagonist appears next to the president of the Major League. He survived due to the ability of the Ghost Boots, immunity to damage. The boy admits that if the Soul Thorn had hit its target, he would have indeed died. But the one the leader was aiming at was not a real mortal. The attempt to escape was unsuccessful. The head of the guild instantly died from the apocalypse of the small light. The guild president gave Zhang a pretty good artifact, a damaged angel ring of silver level, which adds 100 units of mana, which can be restored in the forge of the main city. The main character's enemies are becoming stronger and stronger. To confront large guilds, the guy will no longer have enough strength and speed alone. All players on Mount Qian receive a quest message, the content of which astounds everyone. The power of the seal has been restored, so 5 gates will soon open at once. Jang understands that there will soon be such a large influx of monsters that there will be no time at all to reach the Yulong Guild. So for now, they will have to be released. At the same time, the main character's allies emerge from the gates. Everyone is very happy about the captain's victory, even Yue, although she doesn't talk about it. The squad moves on. Zhang asks Yue if she is going to leave the team or show them the way, but the girl clearly has no intention of going her own way yet. And dear. While the mortal squad continues their journey, the head of the Royal Guild has returned to the very beginning, the spawn point of the Fire City. Tai had been waiting there for a long time. He mockingly asked again if it was true that he was now seeing in front of him that same prince, a member of the Royal Guild. In response to this, the prince suggests that Tai go to the city of Jailu, where, according to rumors, they are now selling his beloved gold-level equipment, which Tai lost after his death. The guy was angry at this joke, but he still really needs to buy good equipment, so he goes to Jailu. This city is also not without changes. Xiaoruier finally got there, having leveled up to the required level to find the shop that Jiang told her about. The girl finds the main character's shop called the Treasure Pavilion, and among the information about the abundance of extremely rare and expensive artifacts and equipment, she notices that she is already the manager of this shop. Before taking any action, Xia decides to first let Jiang know that she is here, so she sends him a friend request. The mortal squad continues to clear Mount Qian of silver-tier monsters. Now they are facing a boss, Rhinoceros, who has 2 not-so-complicated skills. All this monster can do is simply ram its opponents, so such an enemy does not pose any threat to Jiang. The main character easily dodges the rhino's attacks, and in the breaks between them, deals damage. Everything is going so smoothly that the rest of the members have set up a picnic and are simply watching from afar as their captain deals with the bosses. Having killed the rhino and gotten some pretty good gear from it, Jiang called his partners and said that they were going to the next location. Suddenly, the main character receives a friend request from a player with the nickname Ruye. The guy immediately understands that progress through the location needs to be postponed. Jiang is sincerely happy that his close person has reached a high level and is now playing with him. He asks Xia how things are going at his new workplace. A frightened Ruye states that everything was fine until 2 strange rich men came who wanted to buy gold-level equipment, because this is her first time behind the counter, and she doesn't even know what price to sell it for. Tai and the prince came to the treasure pavilion. They wanted to take the gold equipment right from under each other's noses, and Xia, who was standing on the other side of the counter, simply stood in a stupor. The protagonist is surprised that there are so many rich people in the world. He tells the girl to arrange something like an auction with a starting bid of 10,000 gold. So Ruye does just that. She announces a starting price and says that the equipment will go to the highest bidder. The first to offer is the president of the firmament, 20,000 gold in exchange for bloody demonic armor and frost weapons. The bet is immediately outbid. The prince considers Tai stupid, because 20,000 for 2 pieces of gold-level equipment, of which there are only 5 on the server so far, is too low a price. He offers 25. So far, Tai hasn't reacted to the prince's caustic remarks. He simply raises the bet to 26,000. The president of the High King's Landing comes up to the shop. He doesn't understand at all what these 2 rich people are fighting for, but decides to joke about the fact that the president of the firmament only added 1,000. Tai continues to hold his emotions inside. He doesn't answer, but only raises the bet to 30,000 gold. All this time, Ruier just stands there in shock, not understanding where in the world such rich people come from, and why Jiang didn't tell her before that he was making so much money here. Xia writes to the protagonist that an unknown warrior took 2 pieces of gold-level equipment for 30,000 gold, to which Jiang replies that he will definitely treat the girl to dinner and give 1% of the profit. The protagonist was able to establish a quick and convenient sale of the acquired items. The mortal squad approached the 9th gate, the size of which boggles the imagination. Tao says that after they dealt with the 2 gates, most players should rush to the 9th gate to kill the monsters. But these same monsters may not go to the players, but go to the cauldrons of the 9 doors. Then Qing has a reasonable question. Will they just wait for the gate to open? But all doubts disappear when a notification from the system appears, stating that some player has already been attacked by magic, which means the cauldrons have already been attacked. Jiang, as the squad captain, announces a new plan of action. Qing, Tao, and Yue will maintain the cauldrons while he deals with the silver-tier bosses. For Tao, the main character has a special mission. To control the battlefield, he asks if he can rely on her, and the girl replies that she will do everything possible not to let the captain down. Things are not going well for the players defending the suppression cauldrons. It's a complete mess, and it's clearly not the players who are winning. Warriors are already running out of strength, and wizards are running out of mana. Players are losing motivation to continue the battle, because if they die, they will lose not only the possible reward for completing the task, but also some of their attributes. Fortunately, the girls from the Mortal Squad come to the battlefield, the last hope of the entire server to save the suppression cauldrons, and accordingly, complete the full quest. Tao, feeling her duty, asks everyone to pay attention to her instructions. First, she asks the players on the right flank to retreat closer to the demon suppression cauldron, and deal with the weak ones first, so as not to pollute the cauldron. Among the players on the right flank are members of the Yulong Guild, the one that Jiang had to let go of due to the opening of 5 gates at once. Strange as it may seem, the president is now not against following the orders of a member of the squad they hate. Then, Tao instructs the players to gather in 2 lines. Warriors of at least level 16 should stand in the vanguard, and behind them, those who are ready to replace the wounded at any second. And also orders all priests to gather in small groups and maintain the health of the first-line players at 80%. There are the fewest demons on the left flank, so the summoner sends knights there, whose task is only to hold back the enemies and ranged players. The warriors followed Tao's order and lined up in 2 ranks. The girl orders to start by surrounding the enemies without getting too close. Players whose health has dropped below half, which the priest must not allow, are required to retreat. Guild President Yulong looks at Tao and is amazed at how she took on such a large battlefield and controlled the situation so skillfully. He is considering the idea of trying to recruit the girl into his guild, as such an ally would be a huge advantage in the struggle between guilds for influence on the server. While Tao holds off the simple demons, Jiang takes on much more dangerous enemies. Now he faces the 3-tailed fox, which can attack with fireballs from its tails. This boss is a magical ranged combat system that is essentially a weapon of mass destruction, and if he doesn't deal with it, the cauldrons and the players protecting them will be finished. The main character attacks first and demonstrates his next record for damage. The boss immediately strikes back. The fox releases 3 firebolts from its tails. It is possible to dodge such an attack, but Jiang doesn't see the point in it. He just continues to shower the 3-tailed fox with damage. 10 minutes and the hero receives the crescent mantle and the indomitable longbow. He only needs to defeat the last boss. At this time, a small squad of only 4 players goes along an empty path in order to kill the last remaining boss, while all players are busy defending the cauldrons. Meanwhile, the battle at the suppression cauldrons is not going in the players' favor. The right line of defense has been breached more than once, and the players are running out of supplies. The situation is heating up, and Tao realizes that there is only one way left to emerge victorious from this battle. The girl turns to the head of the Yulong Guild and asks for help in motivating the people to give their all before the captain arrives. There is no doubt that the mortal is strong, but the man asks if the summoner can guarantee that he will defeat all these monsters. With absolute confidence in her eyes, Tao replies that she is ready to bet her life on this, and the leader believes her. The man addresses the Yulong Guild members and calls on them to use all their equipment to hold off the demons. After the last sealed gate was opened, the suppression cauldrons disappeared. But all these monsters remained, and as long as they are alive, the quest will not be completed. Qing, Tao and Yue have also entered the battle. All the players on the battlefield are hoping for Jiang to appear soon, and so it happens. After a couple of minutes of even more furious battle, an extremely strong aura appears, and then the voice of the mortal. The main character flies in on a dragon, and immediately uses his most powerful spell on the horde of demons. The only savior came to the people, which means all their efforts were not in vain. Still standing on the dragon, Jiang asks not to be afraid to fight him. Although he is not able to heal, he can easily deal with monsters. Everyone immediately perked up. The players' chances of winning increased many times over in a second. Half an hour later, this whole meat grinder finally ended. The tired Tao Xiaotang falls from powerlessness and leans on her pet, the no less tired Da Hong. Qing and Yue are not in the best condition either. The girls also have great difficulty maintaining their balance. But it's too early to relax, because this battle is not the end of the whole quest. The protagonist states that the boss that came out of the last gate is still alive because he didn't have time to reach it, as he received a message from Tao asking for help. There is no point in going to him. All the monsters here are trying to destroy the cauldrons of suppression, which means he himself must come to them. The final boss, Naki, has a much more complex mechanic than all previous silver tier bosses. He can spray poisonous mist, become invulnerable for 10 seconds, and heal for a percentage of his health. The same squad that was heading here while the other players were defending the suppression cauldrons still reached their goal. But the boss's skills greatly shook the confidence of these four in their abilities. The squad's morale has dropped significantly, and the captain tries to cheer them up somehow. He says that they should at least try to defeat this boss, and if there is a hint of success, they can just run away. Suddenly, a mortal squad appears on the slope, and Jiang deduces from the poisoned fog that someone was able to get ahead of them. The knight from that small group, Xiaoan, is unable to contain the boss. The fog has completely surrounded him, blocking his vision and not giving him a chance to lower his shield. His allies try to dissuade the guy, because it is already clear that they cannot defeat the boss, which means there is no point in fighting further. The group retreated. There was no need for them to be heroic and risk their items when they could simply leave the fight and leave the snake to someone else. But Naki won't let his victims go so easily. And even though they've already left the fight, the boss continues to pursue them. The mortal squad notices this. Since no one can stop them now, they enter the battle. As he runs away, Xiaoan notices that a new squad has immediately come to replace them, and tells his teammate, Hengqiu, about it. The protagonist's squad is similar in structure to Hengqiu's squad, so he believes that these four will also not be able to handle the boss, and decides to suggest that they unite. Zhang notices a strange noise from the fleeing group, and notices three of the leaders of the ranking of the strongest players of the past life server, Xiao An, Hengqiu, and Xiaochun. Hengqiu runs up to the heroes, greets them, addresses the main character as brother, and asks if they are also going to fight Naki. Jiang is greatly alarmed by the fact that the future leader of the warriors is acting so friendly and welcoming. With a kind smile, the guy declares that he and his squad do not wish them harm, but on the contrary, want to join forces to defeat the boss, because he is very strong. Without answering, the protagonist turns around, then makes a dismissive gesture with his hand, and says that since these four do not want to fight, then it is better for them to leave and not interfere. The girl from Hengqiu's squad is angered by the mortal's arrogance. She asks if he even knows who he is going to fight against. Little by little, the main character begins to lose his temper. He offers to help this squad get to the respawn point right now, if they so want to escape quickly. Meanwhile, Hengqiu has gone from being friendly to being serious. The guy says that Zhang and his squad will definitely not be able to defeat Naki without their support, so he hopes that they still have a chance to cooperate. The protagonist stands his ground, saying that he is going to kill the boss alone, and asks his partners to keep an eye on Hengqiu and his squad, so that they don't get underfoot. Zhang and Naka's fight starts with an analysis. The boss has the poison mist ability, so it's not surprising that the melee team lost. The embittered Xiaochun doesn't understand what the priest is going to do to the silver tier boss, but Hengqiu suggests not to interfere, and just watch. Zhang strikes first, and immediately shows colossal damage of just under 3,000 units. The hero deals consistently high damage and skillfully dodges all of the boss's melee attacks. Zhang completely dominates Naki. Hengqiu and Xiaochun's squad's jaws instantly dropped. One priest deals more damage than all of them combined. Players don't understand how a priest can cause damage with his healing, especially such a huge amount. But it was not for nothing that Hengqiu in Zhang's past life occupied a position in the ranking of the strongest players. He was the first in the main character's entire journey after reincarnation to guess that his ability to inflict damage was a talent. And so, Naki uses Poison Mist, an ability that Xiaochun believes should put this insolent priest in his place. But the main character didn't even have to be particularly clever to continue the fight without any problems. He simply moved away to a sufficient distance where the fog couldn't reach him, and used the apocalypse of small light. The girl gets even more angry. Such a strong attack from a simple priest, when the server opened not so long ago, looks very much like cheating. Hengqiu asks her teammate to stop stirring up the conflict, because it was their squad that was too overconfident. Mortal has every chance to defeat this boss. The fight is in full swing. Naki already has only 75% health left, while Zhang is still unharmed. It finally dawns on Hengqiu's squad that they are no match for this priest, and Xiaochun apologizes to her allies for bringing shame on them. No one even had time to notice how the battle between Zhang and Naki ended with the total defeat of the boss. The main character got the magic lightsaber and the Nightblade of the gold level. With the killing of the last boss, the full quest ended, which means that for the entire mission, in addition to the points earned, Zhang received 5 pieces of gold level equipment. For killing monsters, the main character earned 134,000 personal points and 34,000 team points. Zhang offers the girls to share the team points for the 3 of them, because they all tried hard. Hengqiu approached Zhang. The hero was a little wary at first, as he thought that the guy would try to win back the reward for killing the boss. However, Hengqiu just came up to ask if the mortal had any silver-level equipment that he could sell. The warrior also adds that he is ready to take everything 10% more than the market price. Expecting a few ordinary items, Hengqiu is shocked when the protagonist gives him a list of 8 pieces of rare silver-level equipment. The guy takes everything for 3,200 gold, and Zhang's mood immediately changes. He wishes Hengqiu a good journey, and declares that he hopes to continue this kind of cooperation. The protagonist's allies ask where they are heading next, to which Jiang replies that he needs to return to the snow forest, and asks what his partners will do. Tao and Qing plan to go to bed, and Yue, with a very menacing expression, declares that she still has unfinished business. But first she wants to ask the mortal something. But surprisingly, Yue doesn't make any accusations to Jiang, but comes up and kindly asks if he has a girlfriend. The question made the protagonist seriously think about whether he could consider someone from his circle to be his girlfriend. The first thing that came to Jiang's mind was Ruer's sister, but fortunately, he quickly suppressed those fantasies. The protagonist thinks for too long, and Yue reminds him that he never answered her question. Finally, Jiang decides, instead of making any assumptions, to answer that he has no one, and ask why she is interested in this. But Yue acts even more mysteriously. She says that she asked this question just like that, after which she kindly says goodbye to the mortal, and promises not to detain him the next time they meet. The protagonist returns to the snow forest, where a saddened Yindi is already waiting for him to tell him about how Lisan tied him up and took the vessel with the sunflower from him. But Jiang doesn't let me finish the whole story. He says that he knows about what happened and has already returned the flask with the dead flower. Yindi is extremely happy that his entire plan has received a second wind. He will immediately continue the ritual, and at this time the protagonist can look at the full mission points exchange store. Upon opening the catalog, Jiang is truly amazed by the generosity of the immortal developers. Points can be exchanged for truly valuable items such as gold-tier equipment, skill stones, and sealed books. With the amount of earned points that the protagonist had, it was possible to buy up a quarter of the entire store. Jiang buys a skill stone, a sealed 4-star book, 3 gold-level equipment, and converts the rest into 207 gold coins. The protagonist spent the points he had earned through honest work, and in the meantime, Yindi had almost completed the ritual that would allow him to learn about Lisan. The guy makes the final touches, and suddenly, black magical energy flies out of the flask, the breath of the demon god. This was to be expected. In Zhang's past life, all the disasters on this earth began precisely because of the demon god. The demon god's breath allows the heroes to look into the past. They see Lisan sitting in the garden, crying hopelessly, and dropping a tear on the very flower that Jiang found dead. A second later, we see the reason for the girl's grief. A demon spirit appears above her, screaming at her because she has escaped his control and threatening to kill her. Yindi is in complete shock. He knew that the Lisan he fell in love with would not have become what she is now. But he could not have imagined that her soul was taken over by the demon god himself. He has a new request for the traveler, to find the ruler of the Firelands, show him this, and tell him about the demon god. The main character immediately accepts the mission without any unnecessary questions, and says that he will begin to carry it out immediately. But everything couldn't be so simple. The possessed Lisan appears and declares that everyone who learned about the secret of the demon god must die. Seeing his beloved, Yindi begins to scream, trying to reach her soul. But the main character asks the NPC to stop. In front of them is not the person Yindi considered his girlfriend. Right now, in front of Jiang Damon, Lisan is the 15th level boss who has the ability of Soul Shock, which deals 100 points of damage to any target within a 20-meter radius, and the Blessing of the Demon God, which allows him to temporarily block space. The demon asks the traveler why he did not keep his promise and kill Yindi, to which the main character replies that he gave his word to Lisan, and not to the demon who is now talking to him. Jiang will have to fight for the first time with an enemy whose skills are so strange and incomprehensible. Apparently, it will not be possible to dodge or block the demon's attacks. Yindi demands that the demon stop torturing the girl's body. Lisan is kind and noble, and the spirit in her is just a ghost without a body of its own. The monster rises up and declares that he will take revenge on Yindi for constantly ruining his plans. Lisan's soul leaves her body. She demands that the demon not touch Yindi, but the spirit is not going to stop. Without Lisan's soul, her face became paler and her features became rougher. The demon thinks that if he kills Yindi in front of Lisan's spirit, she will stop resisting and interfering with him. Jiang receives a notification from the system, which informs him that the quest character, Yindi, is in danger, and if the protagonist does not prevent this, the quest to change profession will fail. The demon is already casting the Soul Shock Seal, an attack that cannot be dodged or defended against, and if it is not stopped, Yindi will definitely be dead. There is no point in counterattacking with a spell, shielding Yindi, or trying to hide him. So the mortal decides to support Lisan's soul and ask him to stop the demon inside her body. These attempts even make the demon laugh. How can a simple priest turn to a spirit and somehow influence it? But surprisingly, the main character succeeds. Lisan heard him and was able to gather the strength to grab her material body and restrain him. You have to seize the moment. Jiang tells Yindi to run away, but he offers to take him to the Firelands, and the hero agrees. They go deep into the forest and come to a teleportation circle between the snow forest and the Firelands, which was created here more than 100 years ago. But after the appearance of the demon god and his sealing in the ancient lands, the circle was destroyed to prevent dark forces from entering the city. At the moment, the circle is still destroyed, but Yindi knows how to restore it. He was taught this when he was a soldier in the Fire City. The guy places the crystal in the circle. The flow of mana in it is restored, and it takes on the desired shape. Yindi is going to send a traveler to the city to tell the chief about the demon that has appeared, and he himself will return to the body of his beloved. When asked why the boy won't go with him, since it's dangerous here, Yindi replies that the crystal he used was a wedding gift for Lisan and can only transport one person. The main character did not try to convince his interlocutor, but simply promised that he would do everything as quickly as possible. A few minutes later, Jiang finds himself in the main mansion of the Fire City and comes to its ruler, Yan Changfeng. Right from the doorway, the hero states the main problem. A demon has penetrated the ancient land of the Fire City. At first, Yang did not understand where the demon came from and how a traveler, a guest in this city, learned about it. But when Jiang showed the flask with the demon's breath, all questions disappeared. The ruler says that he will go there immediately, and the main character has a new quest: to accompany Yan. The return journey will not take the main character and his new ally much time. Yan Changfeng has a magical artifact, the teleportation card, with which you can get to any point. Unfolding the map, the ruler asks where exactly the traveler saw the demon. The protagonist answers that he is now in the snow forest. Jan sighs heavily and says that he did not expect that he would have to return to this place. One click of a finger on the map, and the heroes are already in the snowy forest. Yana is surprised that this territory is hidden from prying eyes by a phantom massif. During the brutal battles and sudden plot twists, the protagonist forgot that this forest was Yan Changfeng's parting gift to his beloved, which is why it was psychologically difficult for him to return here. Yang turns to Jiang and asks if he really saw a demon here, since he does not detect its breath here. The restoration of the chain of events begins. The main character left this place thanks to Yindi, who stayed here, and before teleporting said that he would return to Lisan. He would not fight with her, which means that the demon is now somewhere free. But the answer lies in Jiang's memories from his past life. Some player failed this quest, which caused mass unrest in the ancient lands, and their center was the sacred palace, which means that Lisan went there. Near the palace, the breath was felt completely, as if it hung over the entire estate. Jiang's guess was absolutely correct. The demon that had taken over Lisan's body went to the sacred palace to carry out its plan before the guards and the ruler noticed it. But the monster didn't have time, and noticed a tail behind it. The proud ruler did not sit in ambush. He immediately stood in front of the demon and asked how he dared to desecrate the sacred palace and enslave the bodies of the citizens of the Fire City. The spell had already been used. The magic sphere was flying towards the demon, and suddenly Yindi ran out of the bushes asking not to kill Lisan, as she was only under the influence. But Yang, apparently, had no intention of fighting the spirit shell. It was an exorcism ability. Thus the city leader forced the demon to leave the unfortunate girl's body and show its true form. A worried Yindi immediately ran up to Lisan. There were still glimmers of life in her soul, but only the will of the gods could save her. The demon turned out to be literally a formless dark energy. He declared that all who interfere with the plans of the demon god will be punished, and asked his patron for a blessing. And the demon god gifted him with a new physical vessel, a disproportionate muscular creature with 3 heads, including the head of Lisan, as well as the heads of a snake and a wolf. The demon's new body looked so bad that it caused the main character not fear, but only disgust. The monster seemed to him more like a zombie with cerebral palsy than a demon. No matter how flawed this demon may look, his attacks are really dangerous. Both abilities deal 100 and 200 units of guaranteed damage within a radius of 25 meters, due to which he heals, and, in addition, Due to the spiritual body, he receives only half of all the damage dealt. Taking a closer look, Jiang noticed several more disgusting details about the monster's appearance, which was the last straw. He vomited on the palace flower bed, and told Yang that he would leave this opponent to him. The leader was by no means afraid, but something appeared that would force the traveler to take part in the battle. A new enemy appeared. The Holy Lord of the Red Flame, Aisha, an attractive girl in revealing clothing. At this moment, the follower of the demon god launched a blunt attack. Apparently, he had the same problems with his intellect as with his appearance. Along the way, the demon shouts out pompous threats, saying that he will tear Jiang apart and destroy his soul. But the main character reminds that the demon is not even a close associate of the demon god, but only his follower. Jiang had fought demons many times before, so this vile guy wouldn't be much of a problem for him. However, his speed is very high, and it really is impossible to dodge his attacks. The main character blocks the attack with his hand. He is thrown back a couple of meters. Fortunately, this demon's damage is extremely far from speed. After a couple of missed attacks from Jiang, the monster uses fire shock, and the guy has an idea how to dodge it. You just need to get out of the spell's area of effect. Fortunately, the 2-second delay allows you to do this. The demon's attack didn't reach Jiang. He was able to run out of the affected area and counterattack with his apocalypse of small light. Even after absorbing half of the damage, it still remains huge, causing all three of the demon's heads to scream in pain. Jiang has a new task: to kill the demon as quickly as possible so as not to suffer mental trauma from its disgusting appearance. After 10 minutes, the demon has only 1% of health left, the last blow before his death. But he still does not reduce his pride. There was no longer any point in being afraid of standing close to the monster. No matter how you look at it, Jiang had one last blow left to eliminate this demon. Suddenly, the starry sky cracks, and a magical beam in the form of lightning bursts out of it, which finishes off the monster and steals the entire reward for killing it from the protagonist. The culprit of this is Yang Changfeng. He awkwardly scratches the back of his head, apologizes, and justifies his actions by saying that he could not have imagined that his attack would destroy the space. But these apologies do nothing to improve the situation. The protagonist asks Ian what he should do now that potentially the most expensive equipment of his entire journey was stolen right under his nose. The ruler of the Fire City promised to compensate for everything, and Jiang takes him at his word. The hero has long had his eye on Yang's teleportation card. Aisha suddenly appears behind Jiang and says that the guy reminds her of Yang in some ways. Yang himself assumes that the traveler is as smart as he is, but Aisha sees other similarities. In her opinion, Jiang is as impudent and nimble as her former lover. These two have a lot of unresolved issues, and the protagonist asks them to at least quarrel outside of his presence. But Aisha continues to remind Yan of the past. She says that Changfeng's ancestors never cared about the subjects of the Fire City. They pursued their own personal goals, which is why they committed extremely immoral acts, ignored the Holy Lord, sealed the demon god in these lands. In justification of his lineage, Yang states that if his ancestors had not sealed the demon god, the lives of all the citizens of Fire City would have turned into hell. The girl agrees with this argument, but the land of Qian pays for all these human misdeeds. Before these events, it flourished. There were dense forests and green meadows, but now there is only a barren wasteland left. But that's not all. The Changfeng clan also, in order to strengthen the seal that restrains the demon god, destroyed all the portals and placed a curse on the local residents, preventing them from leaving these lands. Aisha had a serious question. Why should she endure this and live in a desert abandoned by the gods to its fate, if she can unite with the demon god, remove the spell from herself, and see the world? Yang's response after such statements seems extremely weak. He says that he cannot answer for the will of his ancestors, but suggests that the decision to seal the demons was like the decision to drink poison to quench one's thirst. With pain in his eyes, Changfeng states that all these years he's been diligently searching for a way to lift the curse from this land and help people. With a changed expression, Aisha asks her former lover if he remembers how he promised to show her real snow, and how much she believed him at that moment. However, expectations did not match reality, and with a tear rolling down her cheek, the girl says that apparently, the method of solving Jan's problem is to simply leave silently. The dialogue between Aisha and Yang merges with the story that Yindi told the protagonist, and now it doesn't seem so romantic, and Yang is no longer so selfless in Jiang's eyes. Yan is very ashamed of the fact that he left Aisha without saying goodbye. But no matter what, he cannot allow her to release the demon god. The conversation reached a dead end, and the parties could not come to an understanding. So there is only one thing left: battle. As much as all this hurts Ian, he cannot allow Aisha to achieve her goal. If she forces him, he will kill her, and then do the same to himself in order to accompany her to the other world. There are 2 energy spheres flying around the ruler. These are forbidden spells of water and fire. If Yang uses them at the same time, the entire village of the land of Qian will suffer. Then the protagonist, like Aisha, begins to put pressure on Changfeng psychologically. He asks if, after everything that his ancestors did to this land, Yang is really going to hammer the last nail into the coffin of this mountain and turn it into a large crater. With every word, Yan's soul becomes more and more painful. He cannot influence anything, because Aisha is too strong, and this is the only way to stop her. Aisha joins the conversation. She demands that the traveler not interfere in the affairs of the land of Qian, because this is their war, and he has nothing to do with it. In response to this, the protagonist declares that he has a solution to this problem. He says that the ancient land will be able to see the light again. This statement shocked both Aisha and Yan. They say that such nonsense from a stranger who does not know what it is like to live here is offensive. However, Jiang comes up with a solution, although not the most intricate, but one that does exist. Since all the troubles of the land of Qian are due to the demon god sealed in it, why not just kill him? Naturally, no one believed in the guy's idea, because the demon god is a supreme being that no one can kill, and the only way to contain him is to seal him. But the main character assures that he is capable of doing this. It's only a matter of time. He asks to give him 2 years to do this. With this offer, Jiang opens a special quest, the murder of the demon god, Aini, in which the hero must make a contract with the gods and kill the demon god in 2 years. In case of failure, the player will go to prison, and his soul will be linked to the land of Qian forever. After stopping the fight, Yang tells the traveler that he knows he comes from another world, but asks if he is sure he is ready to make a contract with the gods. The protagonist, hand on heart, takes an oath to kill the demon god within 2 years. If he succeeds, he will go to prison and remain in the land of Qian forever. Aisha's rage subsides. She tells Jiang that she gives him 2 years, or she will go back to her original plan. When the situation had calmed down, Jan turned to his beloved and stated that he had been actively looking for a solution to the problem for the past 2 years and did not want to continue arguing. The girl asks to forget about this for a while, but for now she has a request, to help her restore the teleportation circle on the ancient land. Yang timidly replies that even if they restore the circle, the people will not be able to leave the land of Qian, as the curse has affected their souls. But Aisha still sees the point in this. The teleportation circle will help the locals maintain contact with the rest of the world. Jan cannot make such decisions alone, but he promises the girl that he will do everything possible to convince the governor to do so. Before leaving, the man asks the mortal to be careful and not rush, and also suggests that Aisha reward the traveler for his contribution to solving the problem with the land of Qian. The girl has no reason to refuse this, so she asks the main character to go with her. The heroes approach the statue. Aisha places her sword in the hands of the granite angel, and everything around is illuminated with a pleasant white light. From this bright glow, a magical portal appears to the last ancient temple of light in the entire world. The 3 enter the portal, and Jiang asks Yang how this temple is different from a normal temple of light, to which the ruler replies that the ancient temples of light were created by the god of creation himself, while normal temples were built by the god of light. They approach the altar of the 6 sages, who represent the 6 professions in the game. The figure in the center is a statue of the god of creation, the mortal incarnation of the teacher of all sages. In the center of the monument there is a crystal ball. The hero needs to put his hand on it to begin the process of changing his profession. When the traveler touches the sphere, all 6 sages will pay attention to him, and whichever one of them chooses him, that is the profession he will receive. Zhang is outraged by the fact that he cannot choose his own profession, to which the girl replies that a mortal will have the right to choose if all 6 sages approve of him. But this has only happened once in history. Since Zhang plays a key role in saving the land of Qian, Aisha decides to help him and gives him a god-given crystal that doubles his intelligence. As it turns out, after the ritual of changing profession begins, all equipment and weapon skills will cease to function, which means the guy will have to rely only on basic attributes. The main character was really scared. Items are the lion's share of all his abilities, and without them it will be very difficult in battle. But no matter how dangerous it is, this is what Jiang has been working towards for so long, so he immediately places his hand on the crystal ball. The career change ceremony has begun, and Jiang finds himself at the priest's tower where his first test will take place. Having entered his profile, The main character saw that all attributes except the basic ones had disappeared, but the talent remained, which plays a key role in the guy's battles. Zhang enters the tower, and as soon as he steps through its threshold, the system immediately gives him the elemental wooden staff skill, fast healing, and also gives the hero a partner, a level 19 wooden soldier. This soldier is a simple wooden doll, capable only of running and waving a sword. The player's task is to reach the top of the tower together with the wooden soldier. The hero is now on the first floor, and after he has familiarized himself with his abilities and the characteristics of his ally, an enemy appears, an identical wooden soldier. And then the catch of this test is revealed. The player's partner must reach the top with him, and if he dies, the mission will fail. The main character is unable to rewrite the rules, so he will act based on the circumstances. Since the soldier must go further with him, he will have to be treated. The dolls collide with each other. They are completely identical, starting from their appearance and ending with their arsenal of attacks and damage. Zhang applies logic. His wooden ally has 540 health units, and Quick Heal, the hero's only spell at the moment, restores 150 health units. Considering that these two only deal 57 damage each, the test doesn't look like it'll be too difficult. At this time, Aisha and Yang are standing in the same places and waiting for the traveler to return. The girl does not believe in Zhang, because he should already be on the 4th level of the tower, and not a single sage has chosen him yet. But Yan reminds that the hero, being a priest, killed a follower of the demon god, and his talent is exceptional, so he does not doubt it. Suddenly, at one moment, 4 statues of the sages light up at once, which means that John's hopes for the traveler are justified. The main character really does succeed. He reaches the 4th floor without any problems, but a whole series of fights really exhausts him. In addition, the difficulty of the test with the new floor has increased dramatically. The number of opponents has increased at least 2-fold, but this does not frighten Jiang. He encourages his wooden soldier, who essentially cannot lose heart, and orders him to begin the battle. Identical blows fly from every corner and together cause enormous damage to the soldier. But the main character skillfully restores everything, so the wooden warrior is still in the ranks. 10 minutes later, only bars and splinters remain from the wooden army. Having dealt with all the enemies, the hero and his partners go to the next floor. But before these two had time to leave the location, the main character received a notification from the system, which said that the sages had assessed the player's abilities and offered him to proceed immediately to the final test. Zhang must face 12 opponents alone and hold out. The area of the arena will decrease, and after 10 minutes from the start of the test will disappear completely. If during this time the test subject does not kill all the enemies, the task will fail. Now the main character's task is even easier than all the previous ones that the tower gave him. This test was originally intended to test simple priests to see if they could cope alone, without a team. However, Zhang's case is unique, because without the wooden soldier, battles became an order of magnitude easier. Due to the protagonist's unusual skill, he is more useful as a fighter than as a support character. The test begins, and apparently 11 wooden soldiers are not the only obstacle on the way to completing the mission to change profession. Dozens of spells fly at the hero, but he is still sure that the tests in the priest's tower are too easy. At this time, in the Temple of the 6 Sages, the statue of the 5th sage lights up. The fact that the mortal has achieved the approval of the 5 sages is truly amazing. Yan Changfeng is fully confident that they have chosen the perfect candidate to be the savior of the ancient lands, and he has every chance of gaining the approval of all 6 sages. Even the skeptical Aisha began to doubt her beliefs about Zhang a little. And finally, the statue of the last 6th sage lights up, which means that the main character has entered the history of this world. Zhang is probably giving it his all now, since he has earned the attention of all 6 sages. Therefore, he will have no strength left when he wakes up, so Yang declares that he will definitely help him get to the city. Suddenly, something happens that makes the ruler of the Fire City question the well-being of his own sanity. In addition to all 6 masters, whose light is already an incredible reward of fate, the statue of the god of creation also lit up. The heroes immediately knelt before the angel who had appeared, sent by the god of creation himself. The main character opened his eyes in bewilderment. He didn't even notice how the test suddenly ended, and a notification appeared about its successful completion. Turning around, Zhang didn't understand why the Fire City ruler and the Holy Lord were standing behind him with their heads bowed to the ground. The eyes of the two slowly rise, and the two ask the traveler to turn back. Now he can choose among all the sages, including the profession of the god of creations. The main character has a logical question. Is it really possible to choose the path of the god of creation? Is it really some kind of hidden profession? To which Aisha replies that since there was light, then you shouldn't miss your chance. It would indeed be unwise to miss the opportunity, so Jiang chooses the god of creation and enters the astral plane. A voice from the darkness declares, "Let there be light," after which the main character is charged with magical energy and becomes an angel of light. The mission to change profession is completed. Jiang receives the attribute Pupil of Light and is asked to take the holy oath. Upon returning to the Temple of Light, the protagonist is about to brag about completing the mission, but Ian and Aisha, with whom he had normal communication, now act like his subjects. This is probably the effect of the Angel of Light skill. It would be awkward if all NPCs were to conduct their dialogue in such a prism. The protagonist decides to remind Yan that he owes him for the last blow that the ruler dealt to the follower of the demon god, and all the pomposity of the conversation comes to naught. Slightly tense at Jiang's smirk, the city's ruler promises to compensate the traveler for the damage once they return to the city walls. This answer suits the guy. He pats Jan on the shoulder in a friendly manner and says that he expects something valuable from him. The heroes shake hands tightly and promise each other. Yang promises to compensate for killing the demon, and Jiang promises to kill the demon god. Aisha approaches the protagonist and decides to remind him that if he fails, Jiang will remain in the land of Qian forever, and that he is responsible for the entire city, so he can call her by name. But the girl approached the traveler not only to add fuel to the fire, she has a reward for the traveler for the fact that he is going to help her native land. This is the mask, an artifact that hides information about the player and reduces the level of hatred of enemies. Before they part, Aisha tells Ian that he will most likely be robbed today, to which he replies that he hopes that his personal bank account will be enough to pay off the mortal. In fact, everything is not as rosy as it seems. All 7 statues have awakened at once, which means it is possible that the whole world could once again be swallowed up by chaos. Meanwhile, in the Temple of Light, the whole situation is being observed by the Pope, the first and for a long time the only person chosen by all 6 wise men. He states that they will follow the will of the God of Light, and whether it will lead to anything good or not remains to be seen. For the first time after completing the quest to change profession, the main character decides to open his profile. There he sees that by occupation he is still a priest, but a new status has appeared next to him. Angel of Light, allowing him to grow to a judge, and with proper leveling even to a Son of Light. Jiang is most excited about the new skills. One skill allows him to break free from any kind of control, and another allows him to transform any skill into a counterattack. The hero did not have time to rejoice in his new power for long. He was interrupted by Jan, who said that if the mortal continued to smile silently, then he would go to the Fire City alone. Thanks to the teleportation map, the heroes do not have to walk for days. They say goodbye to Aisha, who finally reminds them of the traveler's promise, after which they return to the Fire City. Jiang asks why the city's ruler did not teleport them directly to his mansion, but moved them to the main gate. But Yang did it for a reason, so that the traveler could feel his status. During this dialogue, they pass by the city guards, and one of the guards suddenly decides to greet Jiang, something he has never done before. All the players in the area are amazed. No one even knew that ordinary guards have lines that are also addressed directly to a person. The noise that arose around could not pass by Jiang himself. People recognized him as the same priest who saved many players during the full mission on Mount Qian. Yan mockingly asks how the traveler feels about his new fame, and the protagonist obviously doesn't like it. He asks to quickly get to the mansion and discuss compensation. Having completed the demonstration walk, the heroes entered the mansion of the city leader, and he immediately took out an artifact from his chest of drawers that would definitely appeal to Jiang. This is the main city medal, a special prop that allows you to use all the main teleports for free, as well as make purchases in all the city's stores with a 20% discount. In general, a useful thing. The protagonist takes the medal and leaves, adding that they are now even, and asks not to bother him again while he deals with the demon god. The mission to change profession is over, which means you can finally get down to business. Jiang leaves Yang's office, and a long-haired warrior comes towards him. The protagonist immediately recognized the passerby as the star of the last night, a player without a guild who dared to use the suppression fragment while Jiang was in the gold-level gate. The hero decides not to miss the opportunity to sort out the situation. He tells the player that he has no complaints, but would like an explanation for his use of the suppression fragment. Without a drop of fear, the guy replies that he is not going to make excuses. He will definitely meet the first priest of national level, and fate will put everything in its place. It's perfectly normal to consider such a person a weirdo. That's what the protagonist did, and besides, he needs to find a mentor. so it would be better to just move on. It didn't take long to find the instructor. He was next door. It was Billy, another pumped-up man without clothes. Zhang had seen this somewhere before. He asked the instructor if he knows Luot, the instructor from the novice village number 10,001. And the guy's guesses were correct. Billy praises the guest's keen eye and says that Luot is his cousin. The protagonist has no desire to have a long conversation with Billy, so he simply hands him a 3-star and a 4-star book and tells him that he needs to print them out. The 4-star book will take longer to open, so the mentor first opens the book with 3 stars. This is the Judgment of Holy Light, a judge skill that releases light at the specified location, which deals 50% damage. There is one more book left, the most interesting one. Since Jiang is now an angel of light, that is, he was chosen by the god of creations, then the skills of a priest, a judge, and all 6 hidden professions are open to him. To open a book of 4 stars and above, the mentor needs to do a lot of long work, so you need to pay 200 gold to open the book, and add another 250 if the player wants to speed up the process. The sum is already quite large, before the main character paid 50 and 100 gold. Suddenly, Zhang remembers the medal of the main city and asks if it will work. Just from the look on Billy's face, it's clear that this discount doesn't apply to opening books. The price is, of course, steep, but the main character still has 450 gold coins, so the mentor immediately opens the book. It contains the skill of the High Priest, the Angelic Hymn, which releases angels that restore 5% of health and also increase health points. The instructor has a logical question. How can a player develop both the skill of a judge from the judicial department and the abilities of a high priest at the same time? But there is no point in explaining anything. The main character takes his book, after which he quickly says goodbye and runs out of the mentor's office. Zhang is faced with the question of which spell to learn in his last remaining skill slot. After some thought, he chooses Angelic Hymn. Having learned this skill, the hero immediately uses his yin and yang talent on it, after which it turns from a healing spell into a combat spell. It is especially interesting how exactly the angels who are supposed to heal will inflict damage. All players have access to only 4 skill slots. To expand the arsenal, you need to reach level 20 and knock out the Godstone in the Divine Goods store. Suddenly, the main character receives a notification that all members of his squad are now online. Qing Ying writes to the captain that he and Tao are going to leave the main mansion. Zhang replies that he is busy for now and asks his allies to wait for him in the city. The hero really has a lot to do. He needs to restore the Angel Ring, which he received from the Kings of the World Guild, and also cleanse the platinum equipment. Zhang's choice is not that great. There are not many forges in the Fire City, and he decides to go to the one that is rumored to be the best in all the ancient lands. So far, the description does not match what we see. The blacksmith broke the sword right before our eyes and threw it behind his back without any regret. This sword almost hit the main character. He certainly could not have expected that a broken sword would be thrown at him in an ordinary forge. Blacksmith I Knew apologizes for the incident and states that it was a weapon from a previous client. To say that Jiang was disappointed in the city's best forge with the broken equipment lying around was an understatement. The guy was about to leave, but the blacksmith stopped him. He said that he really was the best craftsman in the city. It was just that in their business, mistakes very often happen, especially when it happens in the Fire City. But the main character asks what the city has to do with it at all. And as it turns out, in the Fire City, when creating and repairing weapons, there is a chance to increase its class. But the chance of success is 1 in 10,000. Due to the fact that the lands of Qian from Jiang's past life have turned into a complete wasteland, much information about it has been lost. The hero decides to test his luck on the ring. In any case, he does not place any hopes on it. The ring falls into the hands of I Knew. He examines the artifact and says that he can only restore it to the gold level. The words of the blacksmith even intrigued the main character, because he thought that the ring was of the gold level. But no. It is of the platinum level, but it will not be possible to completely restore it. To restore the ring completely, you need amethyst tears, which are mined only in an abandoned mine in the rainforest, which has recently been overrun by wild monsters. Zhang then takes out the dragon staff and dragon skull helmet from his inventory and asks if I can purify them. The blacksmith would be happy to begin work on such a high-quality piece of equipment, but is hampered by the same problem that prevented the ring from being repaired: a lack of material. Namely 2 bottles of spring water from the northern tropical forest near the White Cliff. As soon as the men finished speaking, a system window popped up in front of Zhang's eyes. It was an offer to accept the quest to collect resources for I Knew. The hero accepts the task and receives the quest props: 2 glass bottles of I Knew, After heading to the main square and making an appointment with his partners there, Jiang noticed a quest on the bulletin board to clear out the northern rainforests. Apparently, things really weren't going so well there. The girls quickly answered the captain. They would not be able to come, as they might have come across the trail of a hidden quest, which meant Jiang would have to act alone. Upon arrival in the northern tropical forest, the main character immediately encountered the first problem: excessive attention. He was recognized by absolutely every player who also came to the quest to clean up. Everyone tried to start a dialogue with Jiang, take a photo and ask to join the team, with great difficulty, but the guy still managed to escape. Now is the best time to try out the recently obtained artifact, Aisha's mask, which hides the player's personal information. It was no surprise that when the protagonist wandered deep into the forest, he became the target of many wild monsters. But now only one level 12 wolf noticed him. The monster shows really good speed, but in any case, level 12 is nothing for Jiang. Already prepared to deal with the wolf in one blow, the main character was distracted by a loud cry of "Watch out," and a night girl ran out to help him. This lady is not alone. She is here with her squad. The captain of this group tells Jiang not to waste time on gratitude, but to simply step back and heal them while they deal with the enemy. Without even letting him say a word, the girl who supposedly saved Jiang grabbed him by the collar of his cloak and dragged him away, behind the backs of her allies. When the main character found himself in the rear, the priest girl asked him how he could have thought, being a priest, to go into a forest teeming with monsters alone, but the guy did not answer. Jiang looked at his saviors and realized from their fighting style that they were not newbies, which meant he had no business here, and then went further towards the mine. After going further through the dense forest, the main character found himself in a destroyed mine, and instead of dark ruins, he saw a simple mine, full of purple crystals. These crystals that hang absolutely everywhere in this mine are the very same amethyst tears that Jiang came here for. However, the blacksmith's words about monsters turned out to be true. The mine was guarded by the amethyst wolf, a level 13 boss with banal attacks, among which the only threat was the breath of the wolf, the ability to summon other wolves for support. The main character regrets that he didn't come here with his partners. For them, such an opponent would be just right, but for him, he's too boring. Once Jiang used heal, the basic ability of all priests, this wolf could no longer maintain its balance. One lesser light apocalypse was enough to force the boss to use Breath of the Wolf, which he can only activate once his health drops below half. At this moment, one of the wolves escapes from the squad that decided to heroically save Jiang. The squad captain assumes that the monster was afraid of his strength. However, the guy just needed to turn around to understand that he had nothing to do with the wolf's behavior. A crowd of exactly the same wolves runs headlong towards the detachment. All of them, as if on command, gathered into one pack and moved in an organized manner in one direction. That squad was not alone. There were other single players next to them, and one of them said that if they joined forces, there would be, albeit a small, but still a chance of victory. Among the players without a team, there is one bald wizard named Monstrous Mana. He said that only some 500 monsters is not a problem. But as it turns out, the player had an unusual plan. He uses his ice attack, which covers the ground around with ice spikes, preventing the squad that saved the protagonist from retreating, and asks why Shikaran, the captain of the squad, doesn't stay and hold off these wolves. And before his victim had time to respond, let alone even just realize the situation, Monstrous Mana, along with the rest of the players, ran away without a group. Shikaran was about to break his way through the ice and catch up with the magician, but his ally asked him not to commit such rash acts. Now it would be better to think about how to save his attributes and items. At this point, death means that the entire journey through this forest was in vain. All loot and experience will disappear, and getting here again will be even more difficult. Meanwhile, the main character is doing more than well. The amethyst wolf is defeated. He dropped a precious stone, a quest item, as well as silver-level equipment, the Doom's outfit, and the bloodthirsty necklace. The gemstone can compensate for the missing amethyst tears. It is more valuable than what grows in this cave, but can be used for the same purposes. One point of the mission is completed. All that remains is to find a source of spring water, and you can return to the Fire City to the blacksmith. Suddenly, a fierce battle unfolds in front of the main character. The boss has already been defeated, but the effect of his summon is still active, and all these monsters were intended for him. Jiang recognized the defending players as the squad that had helped him. Even though it was pointless, they still needed to repay in kind. In the game Immortals, it is rare to meet truly kind people, since this is a game, and it is not your life that is at stake, but only your attributes. Almost no one will even think of helping a person in trouble. One precisely directed apocalypse of small light, and this whole crowd of mad monsters will disappear as if they never existed. The entire squad is in shock. Just now they were fiercely fighting for their lives, when suddenly all their enemies died from one spell that appeared out of nowhere. The protagonist took this completely calmly, did it, and went on. But Shikaren asks the priest to stop. Jiang assumes that they, like everyone else, will pester him with questions. But no, the heroes didn't ask about the guy's strength, try to recruit him somehow, or just get to know him. They simply ran up to him and bowed in gratitude. The hero had mixed feelings. On the one hand, it put him in a rather awkward position, but on the other, it was terribly pleasant. So Jiang simply waved his hand embarrassedly, said that it was not difficult, and left. Finally, the main character reached the second quest point, a source of spring water, which turned out to be a simple pond surrounded by smooth stones. As soon as Jiang approaches the spring, a beautiful-looking girl with cat ears emerges from the water. The keeper of the spring, dressed in a revealing outfit, asks the traveler for what purpose he came. For the spring water, or for her. At first, the main character was taken in by the attractive appearance, but after a couple of seconds he came to his senses, and remembered that there should be no NPCs here. The charming lady standing in front of Jiang is the source boss, the white phantom fox, whose strength is not in damage, but in the ability to hide its presence and take on the appearance of a human. The main character had never encountered her before. At the time of his past life, this boss was considered obsolete, so he went to the forum in search of information. As it turned out, 3 million male players had already died because the Phantom Fox, disguised as an NPC, got into players' groups and then killed them. The girl states that outsiders are not allowed to enter this source, so she urges him to leave and not cause problems. However, the hero is not going to leave this place empty-handed. Instead of talking, the guy simply attacks the boss using healing. The Phantom Fox's reaction to the massive damage from Jiang's attack was very strange. She made an expression as if she liked it, and suggested the traveler to retreat one last time. The protagonist found this reaction strange, which is quite logical, and stated that he still intends to fight. As soon as Jiang said that he would not back down, Phantom Fox appeared behind him in an instant and swung his sword, saying that in that case, she would have to kill him. The speed of this boss is really high, and a normal player would probably not be able to handle it. But Jiang does not fit the definition of normal, so he easily dodges it. Since Phantom Fox is only level 15, the protagonist can afford to experiment. He uses his new 4-star spell for the first time, Angelic Hymn. The new ability shows excellent results. After using it, the boss's health drops below 50%, so the illusion of a person falls off and she shows her true face. Now Jiang is fighting not with a beautiful lady, but with a real predator, whose damage and speed have increased significantly. But this is not a problem at all. Angelic Hymn does not consume a lot of mana, which allows it to be used several times per battle. Now the hero needs 2 to defeat the enemy. Suddenly, Jiang, like absolutely all players on the server, receives a notification. The main character has become the first to reach level 20, and now a dungeon is open to him, which gives access to the royal city. Level 20 not only opens the dungeon, but also allows the activation of the Gate of the Gods, meaning Jiang is one step closer to becoming the god of this world.